Hello, everybody, and welcome to...
Hello, everybody, and welcome...
No, Kyle!
New habits!
Control.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm
so sorry. I just, it was the new normal for a little while there, Ben.
I'm sorry.
Rival announcers here.
I'm sorry.
It's going to be a fight to the death.
Yeah, maybe we can have like a Twitter poll to figure out each episode who should host it moving into the future. Like, here's the
Not another Twitter poll.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
You sure? Thank you for hosting it the last couple of weeks, Kyle. How'd that go for you?
I went well. It was good. It was nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking, really?
Yeah. The second week, not so much. The first week, though, very, very anxiety-inducing.
Well, you had to do 2 live, and I snooped a little bit because I sent you the Google Docs with my notes in them for like, here's the thing to plug and all that stuff. But I went back and checked those Google Docs again, and it made me laugh because you had just notes for the podcast, but it was just like 7 pages of highlighted notes, and it's like.
I would highlight them as I went through them to kind of make it easier to read. Yeah.
I was going to start this episode just by explaining the point of highlighting, Kyle, is it needs to highlight something. If it's all highlighted, nothing's highlighted.
All right, Jerry, I get it.
Anyways, this is a podcast about games, friends, and getting better. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you watching or listening. If you're listening, you can watch over on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can listen by subscribing to the podcast version. Also joined by Jeff Marchiafava.
Hello.
Otherwise known as the podcast engineer over there. Great job, Jeff. You nailed it.
Right. We got through it.
We got through it indeed. And Sarah Podzorski.
Hello.
Welcome. Kyle, okay. Good job hosting. Thank you. I'm sorry if it stressed you out.
You're going to give me notes now? Is that what,
no,
usually
they're not.
Send me these privately.
Well, that's what he did to me, too. Yeah.
No, that's what he does to me, too.
Compressor crap.
There's not that many notes. It's not that bad. Just a couple things. We're like, Jeff, the last message I sent you was make sure you check the audio levels before you go live. But that's fine. I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus.
It was a lot. And I didn't mention it before, but right before we started, I got everyone online and I was just floating boxes for everyone. And
right.
Kelsey wouldn't come through. She was floating boxes on my screen. And so it was a huge mess. We were already running late. And
I get it.
As soon as I pressed that like button, I was like, all right, we did it.
Everybody did a great job.
Like, except I didn't check any of the
There's always something that falls apart.
Fine.
That's fine. No, Kyle, I wasn't going to give you notes. I was going to say it's so bizarre listening to the podcast because I just want to join every conversation. I probably, my mouth was twitching when you all were like, what's the most watched but least played game? And I was Desert Bus. Somebody say Desert Bus for the love of God. Say Desert Bus.
We got there.
Thank God. Yeah, I think it was like Joshua Caleb in the backstage pass jumped in and it's like, oh, thank you, Joshua.
That was such a Ben Hansen question. I was like, I read that and I wrote it down. I was like, this is a question that Ben would be like, oh, this is a good question.
It is a good question.
It just appeals to you.
It is very good, but everybody did a great job. Thank you. Hey, on this episode of the podcast, we're not done with our big summer gaming coverage because we haven't talked about what happened on Sunday, which is the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase. We'll run down some highlights from that. I would argue best show by a mile for this season. People are
Although
nodding.
the competition wasn't too stiff.
Not the stiffest, but
I would say.
There's a lot of love for that state of play out there. I enjoyed it. Anyways, we're going to talk about that. We're going to also be talking about the Capcom Showcase. Then we're going to be figuring out what it's like to attend an E3-like event in the year 2022 because we sent Sarah Podzorski out into the field, out to LA to attend Summer Game Fest, and it seems like it was an adventure.
Yeah, I'm surprised I made it back.
Great. We'll talk all about that.
Surprised it was released.
But she's played some games and we'll talk about it, I assume. Then for the back half of the show, we're going to be joined by a very special guest who shouldn't feel special, but I think it will be special. So hopefully they come through and it all lines up magically. Couple things before we start, just setting the table here. If you're wondering, why aren't they talking about the Final Fantasy VII stream, the big stream? We're recording this on Wednesday. If there's something that I should be screaming about that was revealed on Thursday in that Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary stream, which the way Square's pitching it certainly seems like there will be something that'll make me squeal. I'm not squealing on this podcast. I'm squealing in our live reaction because myself and Joe Juba had a live reaction to that on YouTube. So if you check out youtube.com/MinnMax, you can check out the archive of that if you're listening after that Thursday. Otherwise, tune in live and let's have a good time. Also, Mario Strikers Battle League. Jeff, give me a thumb direction on that sucker on Switch there. His thumb is 53% positive, I would say. Okay, we'll talk about that next week. Next week, there's going to be a lot of things to mop up because we have so much to talk about for this week. So next week's episode of the podcast is going to be about games that were overlooked this summer, including indie games from the showcases, because there's a lot of super exciting stuff that'll be great to unpack there. Let's see. Also, we'll be talking about Neon White next week, which Jacob Geller has been playing and is really loving. This is from Ben Esposito from Donut County fame. He made a speedrun parkour puzzle platformer with cards, and it seems to be reviewing off the charts. So we'll talk about that next week.
You made a Jacob Geller game.
I think that's what it means. Yeah, for freaks by freaks, or whoever they pitched that during the showcase. Not saying Jacob Geller's a freak. A lovable gaming freak.
I think you just literally did.
They did. They said in their advertising it's for freaks by freaks. Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge is out now. It is on Game Pass. It is on Steam. It's on Switch. It's absolutely everywhere. We'll be talking about that more next week. But Kyle, you've been playing it, yes?
Playing it on my Steam Deck. Yeah.
Ooh, fancy. Nice. How is it?
I like it so far, and I say that as someone who doesn't usually like brawlers like that. I find them kind of boring usually. I kind of lose interest pretty quickly, but they really, it's Ninja Turtles. It's very nostalgic, but there's also a lot of like fun stuff. There's additional stuff in there too that makes it more worthwhile than like Streets of Rage 4. Like I'm more into this than I was Streets of Rage 4 by a pretty substantial margin.
But I'd imagine you're a lot more nostalgic about TMNT brawlers than you are about Streets of Rage.
Yeah, nostalgia is definitely like a huge part of it for sure.
Yeah, it seems like people are loving it. We're going to be streaming that on Thursday. So if you're watching this right when the episode goes live, you can follow us on Twitch, and we're going to have all 4 turtles playing. It's basically going to be like...
Yeah, plays April. That's who I've been playing as.
Yeah, she does seem fun.
Good reach.
And does she use her camera as an attack too? Isn't there something like that?
Yeah, and like boom mics and lights and stuff like
that.
Okay,
yeah, that does sound pretty good. Hey, Kyle, before we get off the TMNT train, if I may, I did a Twitter poll from MinnMax's account. Did you see it by chance?
No. Should I look at it?
No.
Okay.
I asked, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle? Who do you think was number 1?
Donatello.
Interesting. Jeff, who do you think is number 1?
Oh, I was going to say Donatello.
Okay. Sarah Pozorski. I imagine Ninja Turtles are some old guy crap.
Absolutely the one that you all said.
Yep.
Absolutely that one.
Sarah is spot
Absolutely.
on. Donatello, 31.2%, which is really upending my entire worldview because growing up, I always thought, I'm the underdog. Donatello is my favorite because nobody likes the smart guy who just has a stick. And then I grow up and find out that apparently, I don't know if it's
everybody did.
But I don't know if it's just gamers because he had the most range. I wonder if this poll would be different if you polled people who watch the show or just played with the toys versus played the games. Because I think the range of the bow staff is relevant.
I always liked Donatello the most.
Look, I did too. I agree.
Back to the cartoons.
But now that he's the most popular, you can't. It's like, hey, I like Pikachu.
Yeah, now I hate him and he's garbage.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. I hope machines do him. Also, Michelangelo coming in below that, then Leonardo, and then Raphael underneath that.
No Raphael super fans out there.
No,
they don't exist.
That's the new underdog. We all need to be really into Raphael now. I think that's how it works. Anyways, we have a community question here. Sean Rubin wrote in over on Patreon and says, howdy, everybody. We all know how long the hype cycle tends to be in the game industry. At the Microsoft and Bethesda showcase, they made a point of saying every game they featured would be out within the next 12 months. Would you like to see more companies take similar steps in the future? Or do you like the longer hype cycle of multi-year build-ups here? I thought that was a unique angle of saying, hey, everything here within 12 months. I think,
but then Hideo Kojima comes on, not to get ahead of ourselves, and it's like, this isn't coming out in 12 months. Like, what are you guys talking about?
Well, that's the Kojima clause, you know.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
I guess
he's allowed to say or do whatever he wants.
Yeah, we'll see him within 12 months again. So technically, I guess that counts. So what are you going to do? Not include that just so you can have this overall framing? But I think it was a nice thing to like bounce back to in the Xbox showcase. Because every time I've seen a game and they wouldn't show a release date, which would happen a couple times, you'd be like, well, I know before June of next year, in theory, I'm going to be playing this. And it's nice to kind of have a nice little bundle for everything here. But do you all like the short-term hype cycle, or you prefer seeing stuff years out?
I do, and part of it is I feel like it's impossible nowadays for an announcement to go long enough for it to actually be a surprise. Like we always seem to hear about whatever the new game is super early. So just coming out and saying, hey, there's going to be a new Halo in 3 years or whatever, we like everybody knows it before the show even goes on. And I also think it's a really smart move from a marketing perspective for Microsoft, because they're the ones who can come out and say like, hey, these are all the games that you're going to be playing on our platform in the next year. That just kind of innately gets me more excited for everything that I'm seeing.
Right. It's nice and specific compared to, I mean, there's a weird tidbit in an IGN interview where Todd Howard's like, oh yeah, we're making Starfield, then we're in pre-production for Elder Scrolls 6. Oh, and then we'll be making Fallout 5 after that. It's like, okay, we are into like 2043. I mean, Kyle, your daughter will have graduated high school absolutely by the time Fallout 5 comes out. I'm very confident. So it's weird just how we bounce back and forth between super long term, but then also for Xbox, we're going to focus on the near future. All right, this big Xbox plus Bethesda, Godzuki and friends or whatever, the big showcase here. I figured we should just go around and share like some highlights. We could run down everything, but I think it's better to jump through it. And what about this, everybody? What about this for a controversial thought? What if instead of going from number 3 to number 2 to number 1, what if we all started with number 1s?
Sure.
What do you think? Hang on. Sarah looks like I just shoved a big pile of feces in front of her on a plate with the mere notion.
You're really shaking it up there.
Hey, man, we're all about disrupting the industry, just like our boy Reggie Fils-Aimé.
I mean, I think Sarah's still upset that we didn't talk about the Sonic stream that happened last week.
And no one's asked me. Ben hasn't even asked my impressions of the new Sonic game, I want to say. Like, he hasn't even shown interest in it.
Here's the thing. I told you that like in our Monday meeting, I felt like I was being rude, but I didn't want to uncork that bottle of you talking about Summer Game Fest. So I didn't even ask how your trip was in our Monday meeting because I wanted to save it all for the podcast for the sake of the listeners and viewers. But all right, Sarah, give me your number 3 from the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, assuming you watched it.
Number 1.
I'm sorry.
Not my number 1.
Number 1, of course, number 1 from the Xbox and Bethesda showcase.
I feel like it's pretty, I guess my number 1 was seeing everything coming to Game Pass as someone who's been using Game Pass, like the PC Game Pass for like the past 2 years, seeing all the stuff like coming out and then like Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I don't even have to worry about release dates. Like when it shows up on Game Pass, like I'll be able to play all of these games.
That's true.
So that was very cool.
That was nice. It seems like the one thing that didn't have that splash screen of check out Game Pass, everybody, it's going to be available day 1 Game Pass was the Blizzard stuff, right? Like Diablo 4 is in Game Pass because that
Overwatch
merger.
2 wasn't.
No, but the weird
Overwatch
thing.
is free to play.
That's right. So technically it's Game Pass everywhere. So this is the big announcement. Yeah, is that, well, first of all, I think it was just fascinating to have Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 as a big part of the Xbox Bethesda showcase, because it's like the paperwork isn't signed, but it's kind of like a soft agreement that this is kind of ours, so we'll go ahead and throw it out there, right? It's odd timing for really leaning into it, but why not? Make it seem like it's an exclusive because it's going to feel like that in a little bit of time. But you're an Overwatch fan, Sarah. Like, did that Overwatch 2 trailer do anything for you?
Not particularly, because I saw people play the beta when the beta was out. I was watching that, and they did announce a new character, but I don't know. It's gonna take a lot for them to claw me back into Overwatch.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to convince me in some ways.
I mean, if it's free to play, it's releasing in October, right? Early access starts October 4th for Overwatch 2. I loved Overwatch back in the day. Obviously, Blizzard is in a bit of a hole. And, we talked about on this podcast, like seeing gameplay of Overwatch 2, I was stunned by how similar it was. And it's like, same mode, same maps that I played 5 years ago. That said, like, I think that trailer is more effective than people have talked about. Like, that music in that trailer is amazing, and like having those clips from the first reveal trailer, just like the clips of like, who's your favorite? Mine's Tracer. It's like they are trying so hard to lean into that nostalgia.
They're
for
trying
Overwatch.
to recapture that like initial month of Overwatch where all anyone did was play Overwatch. Like, they're trying so hard. Right.
And like, what else can they do? I think mission accomplished. Like, that trailer got me a little bit excited, even if it's just pressing buttons from 2016 again.
I admittedly not nearly. I liked Overwatch a decent amount. Like, I played it a decent amount, but like I felt almost the exact opposite for the same reasons. I was like, this is retread. Like this, I'm seeing so little that's new or interesting here that you're even relying on the old trailers. Like, it's funny that I had almost the opposite reaction on the same bullet points as you.
No, I think that's totally fair. Free to play interesting. The fact that it's free to play for PvP, and then it's a little confusing exactly what that will mean for PvE. But I guess they're going to have more info, like probably actually revealing today as this podcast just went live, because they're having some other showcase event all about Overwatch and stuff. So we probably shouldn't speculate too much about all this fun stuff. Jeffem, do you got a number one in mind, man?
I do.
Oh,
it's boring and predictable, but it's Starfield.
There we go.
And I would say that, like, when that preview first started, I was pretty ho-hum on it. It took a while to warm up. Like, when they showed him, the character walking out and, like, looking at some bugs and mining some ore and stuff, it was all like, this all looks pretty substandard.
Well, yeah, totally. Because like the frame rate wasn't great. The combat, like I went back and looked at it today, and it's like it's not looking exactly.
There's not really any recoil on the guns.
It's a little floaty and messy.
Like, kudos to them for being the one place that like really they were definitely showing you actual gameplay.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it kind of brought back all of the things that I don't, that I've grown increasingly disillusioned with Bethesda games, I guess. But then they got to, the upgrades, your giant list of skill trees and your crafting and all of those kind of things, which reminded me why I do still like all of those Bethesda games. And then they went to, kind of the base building, which looked, I never really got into that with Fallout 4.
Yeah.
I know some people really did, and they, like created their whole towns and stuff. But I think I like the idea of it more in a kind of sci-fi. You're out on a planet, kind of building your own little colony, and then they did the ship, like build your own ship. That's when it was really like, okay, now like you're tailoring this to all of my nerdy, sci-fi predilections, and like you bring in people to be your own crew. You bring them in to like live in your little outposts and stuff. Yes. And then they No Man's Skied us with the like, and it's a vast universe of like 100 different, solar systems.
I think there's 1,000 different.
Well, 1,000 planets, hundreds of solar systems.
You can land anywhere on the planet, and it's like, job. Yeah, and I know that's gonna just be a boring disaster because it's Bethesda, and how are they gonna pull that up? Like it's gonna be boring if you're just going out and landing in the middle of nowhere. But part of me that's still appealing for some reason. Like, I like that idea of just going out and, even if it's procedurally generated, just exploring something that realistically no one else has been there or looked at. And yeah, if they can get enough creatures out there that you can fight, or procedurally generate in abandoned camps or whatever. Like, honestly, the combat. Still, I was like, I'm not super interested in the combat.
They have like zero-G combat sequences they showed for a glimpse, or it looks a lot like like Mass Effect Andromeda, of like using the jetpack at times to like shoot down. It's like, okay, there's maybe something there.
I mean, I still don't love their normal G combat, so I don't know if zero G is going to be much better for a Bethesda game. But yeah, it's really the RPG aspects and the progression aspects that I've always liked about those games, and being able to customize your own ship and your own colonies and stuff like that. If I can go out, pick my own planet in the middle of nowhere and build up my own little colony there, and live like a hermit out on some planet, then I'll be happy. I'm
totally with you. It's they structured it in a really smart way. We're starting out, it's like, okay, a little bit clunky, but I think I get the idea. They're emphasizing third person, I believe, more than they have in the past for their games. Like, okay, that seems cool. Seems like a little bit of a shift for how they're at least messaging, how they expect you to play this thing. Then they show you a lock-picking game. It's like, okay, this is truly a Bethesda game. We're diving into the weeds. But totally, like, building that outpost and having like just a bit more of like survival gameplay aspects of like, there's an O2 meter in the UI. I'm curious exactly what that means and how it's going to work. But then like the ship building was really fun to see. And especially when they talked about like, the crew members and assigning where these people that you recruit are going in that ship. Like, Sarah, that's tickling your fancy, right?
I'm interested to see how they're going to balance the story aspect, because it looked like there was a bunch of different like space organizations you can join, and like your personality really depended on how you could succeed with like the customization of your space colony,
right?
And like who you can hire, Because it's like, it's either you can have all personalization, little story, or major story, and then little personalization. Like, it never really balances well.
Yeah, and so in an interview with IGN, they kind of went into more details about kind of that main path versus optional stuff. And so Todd Howard said, it's going to be like 30 to 40 hours for the main path, which is bigger than anything that we've done before. And so there's still a lot of handcrafted stuff, obviously, along that main path, but we are using procedural generation for 1,000 planets, obviously. And the part that I'm confused about is he's saying you can land anywhere on the planet, but then at the same time, there isn't the seamless ability to fly down to a planet. So you just like are going to any place on the planet from any direction and then just triggering a load screen no matter where you're coming from. And then it's like, and now you're on the planet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's going to be clunky as all get out, but I feel like one of the reasons that I've kind of grown a little colder on Bethesda games is their strength has always been trying to do things that no one else was doing at the time. And so like that's why I loved Morrowind and all the other Elder Scrolls games and the early Fallout games and stuff.
Yeah.
And it feels like a lot of the industry has caught up and does the things that Bethesda does poorly better than they do. Like everything's an open world RPG now with a massive world that you can go around and, get all kinds of new skills and all of that stuff. So I'm happy to see them biting off something bigger again. And like if building my ship and getting all my own, custom crewmates on it and whatever is clunky, I expect that, but that feels like a new experience again. And so I'm happy to see them like really reaching for it.
Yeah. Obviously everybody's saying, oh my God, this looks like No Man's Sky. Like the mining in particular, a lot of scanning the alien planets and stuff. And so it's like, hey, if it's going to be a jankier No Man's Sky, but maybe with a stronger storytelling experience, like that seems like where you should set your expectations, because I'm worried that we're building up the next Cyberpunk here with people just letting their minds run amok, thinking about 1,000 planets. I can recruit crew members. I can design my own ship. Like, just slow down, everybody, please, for the sake of the internet.
I would hope that people understand the history of Bethesda and know what they're getting with a Bethesda game. Like there's going to be backwards flying aliens, like, dragons and everything else. That's just what it is. It's going to be clunky, but there are going to be interesting ideas there that you can dig into. Yeah,
the story stuff, it's like, okay, you're working with Constellation. It's the organization to go and explore for like the main thrust of the campaign here. And it seems like you're uncovering artifacts and seeing visions from these artifacts, and the artifacts will change humanity forever. It feels very Mass Effect, feels very Mass Effect 1, but sure, I guess, that sounds like a solid tease.
That was precisely my reaction to all the story stuff was sure. Like,
I just hope
I'm going to follow it for an hour, and then I'm going to take a 90-degree turn, and I'm going to go and screw off in the galaxy for the other 100 hours that I play that game.
Yep. That sounds great.
It's just one of those 1,000 planets. Better be the next Elder Scroll game. Like, I better roll up, and it's just, I either get to play Skyrim again, or it's just the next game.
Right. Smart.
I've been patient. I've been very patient, Todd. I've been patient.
Planet Redfall.
I mean, the sort of No Man's Sky angle of it all is like the thing that gets me most interested, because No Man's Sky is just way too aimless for me.
Yeah.
Like I get so bored so quickly, even though I'm sort of impressed by the tech angle of it. Like, I like the idea of something taking cues from No Man's Sky, but inserting more character-driven like RPG elements and even a story, like just some kind of carrot, because like No Man's Sky for me just has no carrot at all.
Oh, I guess just an infinite galaxy and universe. Give me a carrot, though. Daddy needs a level up carrot.
Well, I mean, it's true, though. It's like, why go to another randomized planet if there's no incentive, if I just get stressed out over my inventory management on a different planet and I run out of gas? Like, I just find the whole experience stressful and boring.
Why explore? Why would a human being be interested in exploring
Why
something?
live another day?
There's awesomeness in exploring in a video game, but if everything is random, then everything you find is random. There's like no benefit to anything.
That's right. It's like highlighting. Hey, Bear Commando writes in, Kyle, and says, hey, do you think Starfield is specifically not listing a release date because they're waiting to see when Nintendo plans to release Breath of the Wild 2 and they want to dodge that?
No.
I just think that they're not completely done yet. Like, look at that thing. And you look, it's massive.
And so all we know is coming out before June,
12 months.
Right?
Yeah.
So
supposedly.
But if this, I mean, before June, and
I'm sure 11 months from now, when someone's going to be like, we got to delay this game, they're going to be like, no, we made a solemn oath 11 months ago that it's going to come out. At least Phil Spencer's reputation is riding on this. We got to do it.
You're right. It is going to be interesting, though. I mean, if it's going to be, at least as of now, we think in the same quarter as Breath of the Wild 2. It's going to be a lot to chew on, right? Because Kyle, what's the last messaging? Didn't they say spring 2023 or was it just 2023?
I think it was just 2023.
Is that right? It's exactly my point. Anyway, so looking forward to see more about Starfield and that whole weird thing. All right, Kyle, if it's not Starfield, what is your numero uno?
My numero uno was Hideo Kojima.
Hell,
just because
yes.
I love a good surprise.
Yes.
Those are the things that get me more than like extended gameplay footage of a game I was already planning on playing. Like the fact that everyone was like, "Oh, Hideo Kojima," and then it was at Summer Game Fest, he's got to be there, and then he wasn't at State of Play. And then I personally was like, well, I guess he's just not doing anything this year. And then to see him show up, even though he didn't offer anything, he was just like, I'm here doing something for Xbox. Like, that was really exciting and unexpected.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was a great shock. And there were rumors, I mean, God, I want to say even like over a year ago, that like, hey, I think Kojima Productions is working with Microsoft on some sort of cloud-based game, something online, something that's only possible through the cloud system on the Xbox and all that stuff, cloud computing. But I feel like there's always so many rumors about Kojima. I just kind of wrote it off as not being realistic.
Yeah.
Do we still believe that's a thing? Like this cloud computing thing that gives Xbox games superpowers that no other console can do because it's like part of a hive mind or something?
It's really weird. It does feel like we're going back to 2013. Like, and they have those dopey commercials they would run it again and again of like, Titanfall is only possible through the power of the cloud. It's like, I don't think that's the case.
No. Game that you guys ported to the previous generation.
Yeah, so it is a little confusing. I'm excited at the idea of like, okay, what could that mean for Kojima? He can make a different type of game, which I'm very excited about. Where this gets confusing is trying to track which game is what. Because if you remember, the last time he was on stage with Keighley, or at least remotely, before he turned his back on our boy Keighley by not appearing in Summer Game Fest at all for the big kickoff event.
How could he?
It was disgusting. What a betrayal. But in that presentation, remember he said that like, hey, I've kind of predicted a lot of really sad world events, and I want to focus on maybe something a little more lighthearted for a future game. And so do you think it's going to be this? Because all we know is there's a leak, and it seems like a very strong rumor that he's working on some survival horror game.
There's Overdose is the rumored one with Margaret Qualley,
right?
Who's in Death Stranding, and there's even been like rumors that in demos it was like he was showing it off with a phone, like playing it with a phone in some way.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is where trying to untangle this Kojima web. By the way, this is a gaming podcast. We're in it, Sarah. We're trying to untangle Kojima web. This is as good as it gets.
We're in the trenches with Kojima, trying to figure out what goes on in his mind.
That's the best place to be. I love hanging out in there.
I'd rather live in his mind than play his games most of the time, if we're being honest. But okay.
And then he tweeted about Michael Bay last night. It's just everything.
He tweeted about a meeting with Michael Bay, and then he was listening to the soundtrack from The Rock. So Dan Reichert just shot out to the stratosphere. But look, people take meetings all the time. It's not like this next game is going to be a licensed Michael Bay thing or The Rock video game. But look, I wouldn't kick out of bed for eating crackers if you made The Rock video game as his next big entry. But what I'm trying to wrap my mind around is, okay, so it seems like that horror game, because the person who leaked it said it was running on a phone, that might be the cloud game. Or it might just be that somehow with the Xbox tech, you can stream your stuff to the phone, maybe somehow connected with that. We don't know. But that implies that the horror game's not his lighthearted next game or more lighthearted next game.
I don't know if Kojima's capable of lighthearted after playing a lot of his games. I don't know if this man has ever had a lighthearted, besides watching Paddington Bear 2.
Right.
I don't know if he's ever had like a lighthearted moment.
I disagree. I mean,
well, there's the guy who has diarrhea all the time.
Yeah, what's more lighthearted than diarrhea? But what about like Boktai?
I don't know what Kojima's idea of lighthearted is. It's like, truly, I don't want to know.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly going to be Paddington 3 that he's making, but something that's just not quite as dark. But Kyle, Boktai, you just played that not too long ago. The Sun is in Your Hands for Game Boy Advance. How dark is that overall? I know you're fighting demons, right?
I mean, you literally have to go outside to play it, so...
How dark could it be?
What else do I need to say? Yeah, you're fighting vampires, but it's very cartoonish vampires. I was sort of going through my head. I was like, surely he's done something like lighter or produced something, but nothing immediately comes to mind.
I mean, Police Knots maybe had its moments. Yeah. I mean, there's lighthearted stuff in Metal Gear.
But there's a lot of weird, lighthearted, silly stuff. I mean, the Ape Escape stuff in Metal Gear Solid 3. Like, he's capable of it.
Yeah, please don't forget about in the subsistence version of Metal Gear Solid 3, all of those videos called Metal Gear Stupid. Sarah, have you ever watched these?
No.
Like the animators from Kojima Productions, they just reanimated cutscenes from Metal Gear Solid 3, but made them ridiculously absurd, where it's like Big Boss dancing with the Secretary of State and they kiss each other in a flower field. It is the most delightful thing. Anyways, the point is, so if the lighthearted thing, we know that it's probably not the horror game, and then Norman Reedus announced...
Or is it?
Well, who knows?
I don't know. Would you put that past Kojima?
But,
would you? I wouldn't.
With Norman, you do know Kojima.
I'm afraid of what goes on in that man's mind.
We all are, but we can't look away. But there's also Death Stranding 2, which Norman Reedus leaked that they were working on. So it's like maybe that's the angle.
Which we know is one of the most lighthearted games that has ever come out.
Oh, well, maybe there's going to be, the opposite of what is the big black hole inciting incident in Death Stranding again? Anyways, the point is maybe there's some sort of optimistic world that is generated, and that is Death Stranding 2 or something.
I will say Death Stranding ends on a pretty optimistic note.
Oh, really?
Even though, so it's not like flowers are exploding out of the ground or anything, but like, it's definitely a ramp up of like, this is a terrible situation, and by the end of the game, it's like, you know what? We're going to come out of this okay, everybody.
Interesting.
Not to spoil Death Stranding.
Okay, well, that's, Kojima's next game. He kept emphasizing it's going to be new, it's going to be something weird, it's going to be something different. Please look forward to it. Also, it's going to be a very long time. So this thing might be a while, everybody. We might get Death Stranding 2 before this thing, so who knows? Or my money might
before
even
June.
Be... Yeah. I mean, my money might be on just Norman Reedus again being confused. Because he also said he was working on Death Stranding 2 a long time ago, and that ended up being director's cut. So maybe he was confused again, and he's like involved in that horror game, and because some of the cast is the same, maybe he thought that was it. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Let's see. My number one for this whole thing was a very surprising reveal, and I'm amazed it took him that long in the trailer to reveal the developer that was actually making it. But this is from Obsidian Entertainment. Pentiment is the name of this game. Pentiment. Do you remember this one, Kyle?
Actually, no.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
So is
this the Mike Myers Netflix show?
No, that's right. I'm very excited with that adaptation. Have you seen any of that show, by the way, Kyle?
Just the weird clips people have shared online.
Did you see?
I watched it.
Did you see that?
You watched it?
I did.
That's what you do in your house? Is you watch Mike Myers Netflix shows, Jeff?
I did it.
I saw a clip online
terrible.
Where it was him and he was like Shrek, a live action Shrek came in and they like danced together and then it played All-Star.
That happened.
That's Pentaveret. That's something else entirely. No, Pentiment is the new game from Obsidian. This is the new project that everyone was trying to figure out what this developer is working on, but this is Josh Sawyer, who's the director of Pentiment here, and he goes back to Icewind Dale. He was the director for Fallout New Vegas, the Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, but everyone thought it was weird that like, oh, he's not working on Avowed, which is set in the Pillars of Eternity universe. Instead, he's making this smaller game that's 2D called Pentiment, and it's based on, well, here's their description of what this thing is. Step into a living illustrated world inspired by illuminated manuscripts and printed woodcuts in a time when Europe is at a crossroads of great religious and political change. Walk in the footsteps of Andreas Mahler, a master artist who finds himself in the middle of murder, scandals, and intrigue in the Bavarian Alps. So it's set in the 16th century in Bavaria, And the thing that's interesting is it seems like it's taking some cues from like a Disco Elysium, and you're going around and interacting with these characters, and it's going to be all about the choices that you make, but not, I think, in a simple Telltale kind of way. Because I think the point is it's over a long period of time. So you'll see characters build up, and society will change based on your interactions in this type of game. But I'm very excited to see Obsidian doing something that feels outside of their wheelhouse. It kind of throws back to like South Park Stick of Truth for the art style, just to have like the 2D characters in a party running around. Does this thing stand out for you, Jeffem?
It was my number 2.
Ooh, hell yeah. What stands out for you about it?
That it's just so darn different.
So darn different.
And it seemed very rooted in humor as well. And just, in a year where there were so many space horror games, running around shooting things, lots of remakes of stuff, just to have something that's just so completely different from anything that I've played or seen, for a video game, just has me excited.
Yeah. And so for trying to untangle this thing's name, Pentiment, apparently well, we all know this, but just to reiterate for people, a pentimento is apparently in painting the quote, presence or emergence of earlier images, forms, or strokes that have changed and painted over. So if you're painting over a painting, I guess that's the pentimento. So that's what this is talking about, just kind of the changes over time and stuff.
Sure.
It looks...
I do like that art style of like that medieval illustrations where like they didn't really understand how to draw well, but so everything just kind of looks goofy to begin with.
You apologize to those monks, Jeff.
I know they were doing their best. And honestly, if you've ever looked up the marginalia of like just the illustrations that they would draw in the margins of the books, that they had to copy by hand or whatever, like they illustrated some of the goofiest crap that you can imagine, and like a bunch of weird monsters and stuff. It was just a fun time. It's like they figured out how to make like colored ink, so they just all went crazy. And I guess if your entire life was copying books like hand written letter by letter, you're gonna go goofy with the illustrations.
That's right.
It's fun.
Very fun fact. The art director Hannah Kennedy for this game, I was like, I want to look into this history and see what she's done, because I remember visiting the studio. They made a big deal about this, but she actually did the cover art for Game Informer's issue for Outer Worlds, which is like, it does kind of have a similar 2D look to it. So it's cool. So the full history there. But I'm very excited about this game. And one of the big reasons is just because it's one of the first indicators we've really had about what Microsoft is letting their new studios do and how weird they can be. Like, there's not too many examples of the studios they've bought releasing games that have been started in development after the acquisition. There's stuff like Grounded, which is definitely different for Obsidian, but that was before the acquisition. So many of these are from before the acquisition, like Psychonauts 2. And if this is an indicator of how much freedom these studios have, that Microsoft buys you and they say, hey, we want to make a game set in the 16th century where you're wandering around Bavaria and making political decisions, and Microsoft is funding it, like that is an incredibly good sign for the future for smaller studios, like a Double Fine or In Exile. We don't really know what they're up to next, or Compulsion Games. So it seems like 2 big thumbs up. And actually IGN, Rebecca Valentine, friend of the show over there, she had an interview talking about the history of this game's development and Obsidian and Microsoft and their connections. But there's a just bizarre tidbit talking about how much Microsoft has changed, because Fergus over there at Obsidian, he was talking about the RPG they were making for the launch of the Xbox One, which was called Stormlands before Microsoft canceled it. But he was saying, just talking about that era of Microsoft and how they kept forcing them to put really dumb crap in their game and how they really wanted them to incorporate the Kinect. So at a certain point, Microsoft wanted them to put this in the game. Okay, I'll do a quote. Quote, the idea was you're playing the game, you're not doing so well in health, but your friend comes by and gives you a back rub, and that actually gives you more health. We laughed uncomfortably, and then it didn't come off the list of features. So that is like the old era of Microsoft, just going back to 2013. So it's amazing to see this new era where now they're funding some weird game like Pentiment. So
and now someone's going to make a back rub simulator, but it's going to be their idea.
That's right.
Like, fine, you want it.
I love the idea of
we
someone
suggested it years ago, but whatever. You're the auteurs.
I like someone frantically demanding from like a roommate or a significant other or something like, I need a back rub, like now. Like if you don't get over here and get behind me and start rubbing my back, I'm going to die.
We're going to lose so much progress. Sarah, what do you like for your number 2?
It was going to be the Kojima one, and then it was going to be Pentiment, and then I lost both of those. So I will say that I thought Ravenlok looked really good.
Yeah.
The pixel voxel sort of like fairy tale Alice in Wonderland inspired game. I thought that looked very promising.
It is interesting. Yeah, the weird thing was just trying to figure out what was going on with the visuals, because you thought you had a handle on it, but then it's like, okay, no, then these characters are voxel based or pixel based. They
were mixing and matching.
Yeah, that thing was cool. It definitely stood out. That's 2023 game is all we really know about that bizarre thing. But yeah, you think you're gonna end up playing that thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those coming to Game Pass games.
That's it.
So it's like, might as well, right?
Yep, you're in. Jeff, what do you got next on that list?
It was Pentiment.
Awesome.
You want me to pick another one?
No, man. We can't have this be an infinite show. So you're out of the running forever. Kyle, what's your number 2?
Silksong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I honestly
happened.
I don't even really have a ton to say about it. Like, it looks cool. I liked Hollow Knight 1. I'm excited to play more, but mostly it's that thing of being surprised and not expecting it to be there. It has become the new, Shenmue 3 or whatever, like that sort of, it's not every show everyone's like, maybe it's going to be there, but nobody actually believes it's going to be there. But it was there and they showed it and it looks great. I can't wait to play it.
Yep. I think it was a really good indicator of just the strength of Microsoft's show. And I think the intelligence of them for messaging overall, that like the second game they show is, all right, everybody. And we have Hollow Knight Silksong and it's going to be on Game Pass. So please get ready for it. Unclear. I don't think they've messaged if that means it's not coming to PlayStation or exactly what that means, but it's definitely a big get just for messaging here for
I would
Silksong.
be surprised if it didn't go everywhere else. I mean, I kind of think of it as a Switch and PC game primarily.
Yeah.
Even, I don't know if that's fair necessarily, but.
Yeah, it does seem like one that everyone's very excited about, but also I don't know how many questions people have about it. People are just like, yep, I want that game. Give me the follow-up to Hollow Knight. I'll take it. Here we go. Yep. But hey, no year or date given for this thing, but within the next 12 months, we know it. So that's Hollow Knight Silksong there. Let's see. My number 2 was the Kojima Productions thing.
Boo.
Boo.
Why not number 1? Why not number 1?
Hey, it was just a guy talking, ultimately.
Yeah.
You got number 3 then, Sarah?
I mean, my biased one is the Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels DLC. It was fun to finally see that announced.
You need to add more context for people. They don't know what you're talking about.
Everyone, I used to work at Mattel. So I worked on a lot of the Hot Wheels games. So I very much was a part of this DLC. Not like directly, but I was there for it. So very excited that that's coming.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's very exciting. And the only weird thing is like, well, you already did it. Like, was it Forza Horizon 3 had Hot Wheels,
like,
right?
all you hear is like, give us Hot Wheels DLC. We love Hot Wheels. We love the Hot Wheels DLC. Give it again. And then it comes out, and then you have a bunch of people going, you already did this.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, really pick a side, honestly. Like, oh no, I don't want to drive up on a Hot Wheels track in the sky. I'm sorry.
Sarah, you don't have to defend Mattel anymore. You're gone.
I'll take it away then.
You're fine.
Oh, you don't want the Diora too? I'll take that back. Thank you.
All you have to do now is just talk about the new still of Ken from the Barbie movie. You do have to promote that quite a bit.
I do not have insider information on that.
That movie, most anticipated film. Kai, you still with me on that Barbie film?
Yeah, I saw, what's his name? Is Ken?
Ryan Gosling, hell yeah.
Ryan Gosling.
All right, Jeff.
Great.
Hey, he looks great. Jeff, what's your next one you want to talk about?
My number 3 was Redfall.
That's a very interesting tone.
Yes, because I'm still very worried about the dialogue, and I hope it's just that they've been really playing it up for the presentations and kind of adding extra dialogue in it, because I kind of cringe every time one of the characters opens their mouth, which is all the time.
They do seem to be talking a lot. So Redfall, this is the new game, the co-op first-person shooter from Arcane Austin. It feels very Borderlands inspired structurally. And so maybe this is just the marketing of they want to let people know that this might, if you played a Borderlands game, which at this point I think is 30% of planet Earth, then you might be interested in playing Redfall. I was struck by, I think, the lack of hype and enthusiasm surrounding this thing. It was kind of the big gameplay reveal of Redfall, which is the next game from the creators of Deathloop. I mean, one of the greatest games from last year. And
I get it, yeah.
And
I mean, I get the lack of excitement just based on kind of the tone that it seems like the game is going for, or maybe just the marketing is going for. I understand why that is a big turnoff for people, but I'm there because of that Deathloop kind of, right. I want a co-op Arcane game, and I want to explore that weird, town that's been overrun by pretty vampires. Very pretty vampires,
yeah. So it's confusing to say same studio as Deathloop, right? Because that's Arcane Lyon in France, and then this is Arcane Austin. Right. So technically the last game they made was Prey, but then it gets more confusing because Harvey Smith, who was over in Lyon for Dishonored 2, is leading this game back in Austin. So it's kind of a weird fusion if you like Dishonored 2, which was a Lyon game. Look,
whatever the Arcane grinder is spitting, whatever part of it is spitting this game out.
Right.
I'll be there for it.
Yeah.
This is why it was my number 3 pick. But yeah, I'm still holding out hope that there's going to be that Arcane magic to it, that it's not just a co-op shooter.
Right.
Their games always have, I don't always love Arcane's games, but there's always some kind of interesting magic to them that you don't get from other studios.
And the powers look interesting here. I mean, you can just go fully invisible. There's the weird purple doors and stuff. So maybe that's going to be, once they start really breaking those down, that might pop a little bit more and make it more distinct. But the setting is cool. I like the idea of this Massachusetts, this island off the coast of Massachusetts, and the vampires have blocked out the sun. And Jeff, I don't know if you heard this, they made it impossible to leave the island because they got rid of the water.
Which you'd think makes it easier to leave, but apparently not. No one has legs, I guess, in this world, so you can't just walk out.
Somebody in the comments was trying to correct us and be like, well, it's because vampires can't cross water. But I guess
then what's stopping the people stuck there?
It's a long walk. I don't know exactly. It's mucky and gross. Probably there's fish flopping around.
I just want to know where they're getting the guns and the bullets from. Is the government just dropping them off? What's going on? How many bullets does one tiny East Coast island have?
I bet more than you think, Sarah. I think that's a conclusion we've reached recently. Yeah, so there's an interview over at IGN with Harvey Smith where he talked a little bit more about it. And it's okay, you're picking a character at the beginning, you're locked into that character. You can play co-op up to 4 players, but you can play it solo. And Kyle, you're like this. There's not 3 AI buddies with you. You can do it completely by yourself. And then it's also, oh yeah?
What if I want
was just
AI
gonna say,
buddies?
I feel like the co-op angle of all of it kind of diminishes the arcane element, the side of it.
Naturally.
I just don't. And maybe it's just unfair to say, maybe I just haven't played the right co-op games, but I just generally find co-op games less experimental, which maybe someone's screaming at me that's absurd. But I just feel like you find a couple of systems that work to win, and you kind of stick with those, where arcane games are all about finding alternate angles. And like I said, maybe that's not a take that people like. Maybe they're you're crazy, you can get crazy experimental in co-op games, you just haven't played the right ones. But I just feel like my creativity gets stifled when I play co-op games
because you're too busy focusing on making quips with your buddies.
Yeah,
I get it. And there certainly were a lot of quips in this game. Yeah, we'll see how that ends up and how much they're emphasizing these characters.
I just want a slider in the options. Just give us a slider of
yeah,
lots of talking, default lots of talking, or just shut it and just push that all the way down.
So the intriguing thing of that trailer, and I feel where some people were back on board, we did the streaming reactions with Jacob Geller and stuff, and I feel everyone's oh, this feels arcane-y. Okay, I'm excited now. There's some more surreal looking environments. And it turns out those are psychic nests where there's these kind of magical doors. And I guess it's vampires are consuming a lot of blood and they start just tripping together and you can like go inside of these experiences.
Perfect.
Collective unconscious of vampires.
It seems odd, but then the cool thing is it's more surreal environments and you have to go in and like destroy a heart in the center of it. But again, the part that gave me pause is apparently those are procedural. And there's like different chunks of the town. And so every time you're going in them, they're replayable. And they're just kind of slamming different chunks together in this procedural way for those psychic nests. So it's like, oh,
is this primarily supposed to be multiplayer? Because that's like what I'm getting is it feels like they want you to play it multiplayer.
They do.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I was surprised to even hear that you can play it single player without 3 AI. Like that's a surprise to me and actually makes me more interested.
Yeah. So that's Redfall coming out within 12 months. It feels like one of those where it's like, might be a good one for Game Pass, which is sad to say about an Arcane game, so maybe it's going to end up surprising everybody, but I think it wasn't the strongest show for Redfall, not as strong as I think they would want. Let's see. Oh boy, we got more. Another announcement from this whole thing was a game called Minecraft Legends.
Is this your number 3?
This is my number 3. Old Minecraft Legends. It's a new game from Mojang, and it's being co-developed by Blackbird Interactive, who also is working on Homeworld 3, and then they also just went 1.0 with their game called Hard Space Shipbreaker, which people are quite into. It's on Game Pass. Jeff, have you checked that out yet?
Mm-mm.
I think you'd like it. You might look into that. Hard Space Shipbreaker. But anyways, Minecraft Legends. It's exciting. Making a new Minecraft spinoff. I like Minecraft Dungeons. I had a fine time with that. And this feels, Kyle, a little bit like Brutal Legend, like hero-focused RTS. Did you get that vibe too?
Yeah. I could see that. I mean, there's not really a lot to compare it to when it comes to like a Brutal Legend style mechanics, you know? So that's probably the most direct line you can draw, I think.
Yeah, they call it an action strategy game. So it's like, okay, some tower defense elements in there as well, but you're kind of commanding the armies and fighting the evil forces in Minecraft. But I'll take it. I mean, this feels close enough to an RTS.
Well, I also played this one and kind of just wish it was an action game.
Yeah. That's right, Kyle.
Just like Brutal Legend.
Yeah, well, you're not even a Minecraft fan, are you?
I like Minecraft, yeah. I mean, not to the same level as you. I mean, my kid loves Minecraft, so I play with her sometimes. Right. And I played it a lot when it came to 360. That was like the most I played it.
Yeah. But yeah, it has like a cel-shaded art style too to Minecraft Legends, but it's cool to see them emphasizing a strategy game. And I thought that this was going to be like a big show for RTS games overall, because they also showed a game called Ara History Untold, which I misread during the reaction stream, Jeff, and that's not an RTS. That's a turn-based strategy game. But it's from Oxide Games for that. And it seems very much like they're going for a Civilization-style turn-based game, just like Humankind did from Sega. Was that just last year? And it's a lot of like former Firaxis developers that are working on that Ara History Untold game. But just for the official tally, that's one turn-based strategy game and one action strategy game in Minecraft Legends. So no real RTS love in this, but we take what we can get. Let's see. Kyle, do you have another one? Who has another one? What are we doing? We're scraping the bottom of the barrel?
I have 1.5.
Yeah, what do you got?
I want a Persona. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Surprising. Persona 3 Portable on Xbox is particularly strange but cool. I'm into that.
Yeah, so 4 and 5 are also coming to Game Pass. I think starting with 5 is what they said, which is crazy.
I wonder, the big joke everyone was making is like, you know, does that mean it's coming to Switch at some point? Maybe. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But then I also, as far as just one, like my proper number 3, I just thought Flintlock Siege of Dawn looked like a fun sort of kind of open-ended action game. You know, that thing I love where you're like jumping off of cliffs and jumping out of windows and stuff. It just looked cool. I don't think it's going to set the world on fire, but it looked like something I'd want to check out.
Yeah, it looks not suspiciously, but it looks surprisingly similar to Forspoken. It kind of like just looked like a cheaper Forspoken.
Maybe that's why it appealed to me. Or I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but it seems all right. Flintlock.
Not to be confused with Ravenlok. Is that what it's called?
Completely different.
Two locks.
Kyle, I'm surprised that you haven't dropped a reference to Cocoon that they revealed there.
Oh, that's the sort of former Playdead one?
Yeah,
right? Yeah, no, that one... Yeah, I mean, the big thing that I'm excited about for that one is just former Playdead people getting out there and doing interesting new things. The gameplay looked like a almost like more straightforward puzzle game. Like Playdead games are so good at sort of not making you even feel like you're really solving a puzzle necessarily until you're like a good good way through the figuring it out. Where this was just like more like, hey, you have to get this ball to this thing, and you have to figure out that solution. But I mean, yeah, I'm on board for anything that if someone who worked on Inside and Limbo going out and doing their own thing, I want to see what that looks like.
And not only that, it's the lead designer of Inside and Limbo.
Yeah.
And so, it does look like, okay, there's carrying a lot of orbs around. I don't understand necessarily what's fun about that, but then the way the trailer pitches it, it seems like you're going inside orbs within orbs and kind of like a Patrick's Parabox style thing, and each orb color does a different thing. So, Kyle, I'm counting on you to like this game. You need to just be over the moon. Okay, done. That's Cocoon, everybody. Which is weird because Microsoft last year during E3, they're the ones that showed off Somerville, which is another game from former Inside developers.
Well, they also revealed Inside too.
I guess so. If they're just in the business of anything anybody from that team ever makes, we need to show it off. Because I guess people still associate Limbo with Xbox 360 in some ways, right? Going back to the origins.
It was exclusive on 360 for quite a long time. So yeah absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. Nobody had Diablo 4 on their list? Okay. That seems fair. It is a surprisingly long demo for Diablo 4. I was kind of bummed out by it because they started with like the cinematic trailer for the Necromancer, and the first reveal trailer, the cinematic trailer for Diablo 4, was incredible. It was like the evil lady and she had like that blood cape, and it was just like crazy visuals. And when this started, I was like, this can't be Diablo because the cinematic doesn't look 10 out of 10 Blizzard level, but still looked great, just not mind-meltingly great. But I don't know, does the pitch of like we're going darker and it's going to be gorier and scarier and there's more of an open world do anything for you, Jeffem, as somebody who loves Diablo?
Not particularly. I guess the reason that I loved Diablo 3 so much was just the core loop of I want to go out, I want to kill a million things at a time and get a bunch of loot and do that ad nauseum.
Right.
And so having kind of like bespoke areas on a larger map, like exploration in Diablo games for me has always just been you run around looking for the place that has the biggest group of mobs that you can explode into more loot.
Right.
I don't know that I want to be finding, and there's always been a lot of like random generation within the areas too, so that it does feel like you're exploring something different every time. I don't know if there's like set places on the map that you're like uncovering, like a more traditional open world game that doesn't particularly do anything for me if that's the way that they're going. But a lot of the things that they were talking about, those kind of differences just weren't doing much for me.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by them saying, they said fully realized open world and there's no linear path to follow. It's like, okay, I'm curious what that means. And they're emphasizing too that it's a shared world game where there's going to be other players and kind of these events in the world map, and they're emphasizing PvP. So they're trying to hit some new bullet points for the Diablo formula, which is nice. I mean, considering that Diablo Immortal just came out. Like, I don't know if this is the right time or the wrong time to tease a new Diablo, but
it feels like the super wrong time, because even watching it, like, I know that it's a completely different model that they're going with for like actual beloved Diablo sequel versus the mobile version.
Right.
But all I could think about while I was watching it was, the dozens and dozens of articles complaining about how you have to spend $50,000 to level up a full character and all of those kind of things that, I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that just made it the wrong time to come out with it. Like if you release one that is a free to play kind of nightmare with all of those kind of traps, and then you want people to get excited about the other one that at like the best you can hope for is that it's completely different from the other one that you just put out. So, what's the message of like, then just don't play the other one that everyone like, hey, play this one. This one is everything that you didn't want from, the previous one.
Well, I feel like that's what they're trying to do. Because remember, I mean, they got dinged so hard for coming out just with Diablo Immortal at BlizzCon and saying, hey, what's wrong with you? You don't have phones? Like, and everyone's saying, at least unveil at the same time as Diablo 4 in a big way to give people that choice. So I feel like that's kind of what they're doing now to make up for that by being, it's all about Diablo Immortal. But if you're not into that and you're annoyed by free-to-play stuff, we also have a big juicy one that's coming out within a year here. So who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it would have helped if they had, if they could have doubled down and said, like, we're not putting in microtransaction stuff, don't worry.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But
yeah, they promised.
But and right now, I guess we don't really know how much of that stuff is going to be in it.
Yeah, they're emphasizing they're going to support the end game for years and years, and the overall game for years and years. So yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. So that was basically the Xbox Bethesda showcase. A lot of little details in there. I mean, they confirmed in an extended version that Valheim's going to be coming to Game Pass next year on Xbox, which is cool. It's a launch exclusive over there. It's my favorite game of last year, if you recall. And little stuff like, hey, Master Chief is going to be in Fall Guys. But I think it was a really impressive show overall, even though like it really didn't focus too much on the biggies. I mean, no Halo Infinite update, which I thought was wild. I thought for sure we'd get like the next story content there, next expansion or whatever, however they're going to frame that. No Perfect Dark. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's still missing, but I still thought it was a great show from them.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. And then Capcom came on the stage and said, we're here too, my friends, and we have so much to show you. They got up on stage and they said, do you know Dragon's Dogma, everybody? Are you aware that Dragon's Dogma has been around for 10 years? It's had a long storied history, Dragon's Dogma.
It's one game.
Only one game right now. Please stay tuned now for a bonus Dragon's Dogma showcase happening on Thursday. So that's happening 5 p.m. on Thursday, and they gave no teases that it's about like the past, present, and future of Dragon's Dogma. So if they tease Dragon's Dogma fans with that part in the showcase, only to tease them with a separate live stream and still not announce Dragon's Dogma 2, I think we're taking to the streets, everybody. I think there's no other option.
Burning the internet down at that point.
That's right. But instead, they focused a lot on Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak and then also Resident Evil Village. Sarah, you watched that thing with me. What stood out to you about the big Capcom showcase?
I really was only super excited they announced the Resident Evil Village DLC.
Yeah.
Which they teased at the end of the game. And I was completely surprised that they're kind of already getting us into it, and it seems like a different type of game than Resident Evil Village. It's like a different take on what it would be like to, return to like the castle, return to the village, I guess.
So the premise here, I guess light spoilers for Resident Evil Village, but hopefully not in a big way. I think this is
heavy spoilers.
Let's go with heavy spoilers for Resident Evil Village.
There's a new character named that has a
and we don't know where she came from.
That's right.
We don't know who she is.
There's a 16-year-old girl named Rose who talks a lot about...
This takes place 16 years after.
Right. But you're going back and exploring the village, but then it seems like it's kind of remixing those environments because you're entering the minds. It's a little bit... You're entering the consciousness of the fungus.
It's like an Abstergo situation almost, right? You're like entering a memory.
Right, which is a cool angle just to get more creative and weird, I guess, for what they can do with these environments and characters in this thing.
I mean, my big thing was like, I finished Village. I really loved Village. And the stuff that happened at the end, I was like, okay, well, this is, planting some seeds for 9. We're not going to hear about any of this for a while. That's cool. That's a fun, cliffhanger to leave us with. So when it came back and it was like, oh, actually no, we're checking in much quicker, I was really excited. Like everything they announced, I thought it was exciting. Like the DLC, even playing it in third person, I think is like a fun, weird thing.
Yes, they announced Resident Evil Village, the Gold Edition, and then there's the DLC and all that stuff, and it's coming out October 28th. But honestly, I want to finish this game now in third person because it made me nauseated, and I had to pop Dramamine every time I played this thing. But it's like, oh, maybe third person would be all right.
I feel like it's scarier in first person, but I would love to see Ethan get choke held by Lady D in third person.
God,
so like maybe nice. I'll have to play it again too, just for those angles.
Yeah, it sounds pretty riveting.
Angles.
It is weird, isn't it, with Resident Evil that we're jumping ahead 16 years? It's like the Metal Gear Rising Revengeance of the Resident Evil franchise now, where it's like it's super far in the future and people are going to be clamoring for them to touch on where everybody is. Are they going to
start? Is like Rose kind of going to be the new base character, or is she just like a little fun like side Resident Evil thing, and then they'll just toss her away and go back to the main characters? Like
I think that's going to be.
I hope she's like in the main games to stay for a little bit.
She made some reference to Chris, I feel like, in the dialogue for that trailer.
And then you said, "How is Crystal?"
Wow, look, it's.
You're like, Chris is still here.
It's confusing.
He's not that old. Was he
He's
like
immortal.
30? 16 years after 30 is like not that old.
They also touched on Reavers for the first time in a long time, saying, "Hey, this multiplayer game is still coming."
Yeah,
I guess.
It like the name popped up and they said October. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Please look forward to it. And then the big thing is they showed the trailer again for the Resident Evil 4 remake, which was all well and good. And then they showed like 40 seconds of gameplay, which, was more than I expected. Kyle, did anything stand out to you from their presentation on 4 here?
I'm very excited for that game. It was one of the bigger surprises for me of the whole E3, whatever we want to call this thing, was, seeing it and confirming it. It was nice to see no gunplay, but we did Leon, like he ducked under a vine like nobody's business.
That's
like
sweet.
It was like, wow, he can really crouch. This is exciting.
It was sort of wow.
It's interesting that his face is the Resident Evil 2 remake face. I guess that should have been assumed, but it still kind of surprised me. I was like, oh yeah, I guess he should look like he looked in Resident Evil 2. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and they touched a little bit more on some details about like, oh, this is definitely a reimagining. And without specifics, to say it will have modern flourishes. And they emphasized that the Ganado and Resident Evil 4 have been redesigned as well. I'm a little confused about exactly what that means, but I guess we'll see. But Boondock Bandit here says, hey, MinnMax Mob, what would Resident Evil 4 Remake have to do to blow you away? It's a great question.
Apparently all it took some people was being able to move and shoot at the same time.
It's a miracle,
So,
Sarah.
the sky's the limit here.
Yep, now it's an action game, though. Now it's bad. This is the thing. I'm very excited for this game.
I will be blown
know.
away. I mean, because it's modern visuals. Like, it looks great. I'm excited to see that whole, weird story reimagined with those kind of crazy visuals. Like, I hope it still gets kind of wacky.
I hope it gets silly. Yeah, I hope they don't make it more grounded now. I hope they still kind of lean into the sillier aspects of Resident Evil 4. As much as I love the base Resident Evil 4, I don't know if anything can blow me away about the remake. I think it's a weird way of looking at it. Maybe if the story is like genuinely compelling and they remove kind of the campiness and somehow get me reinvested all over again, maybe that'll be my takeaway. If I leave the game and be like, God, Krauser is like one of the best characters of the year. Like if there's just something like that, but I don't know. But yeah, it's next gen only, coming out March 24th, 2023 for the big Resident Evil 4 remake, which is pretty gosh darn close. Hey, that's it for the big Capcom Showcase. I guess some other odds and ends.
Dino Crisis.
Yeah, Exoprimal, which please do not associate with Dino Crisis. It's absolutely not Dino Crisis. I don't know why you'd think it's Dino Crisis.
I read someone had an interview, maybe it was IGN, and the way the quote read was almost like, "Why would you confuse this with Dino Crisis? What? Why? I don't understand where you guys are getting this from."
Come on, everybody. Hey, real quick before we dive into your adventures, Sarah. Sony provided us a code. I don't know how they upgraded our account to check out PlayStation Plus Premium. And so I was exploring that a little bit in a stream. You can find the archive on our YouTube channel, but that is, the top tier version of PlayStation Plus, which is out now, where it's $18 a month or $120 yearly. I know they have that big list on their blog about like 700 games. Look at all these games. It really wasn't until jumping in there that I realized like, oh, this is an overwhelming amount of games. This is ridiculous. And it's cool to have not the PlayStation 1 stuff, but to have so many being streamable. Just for like, if you're cruising around, it's nice not to have to pause and wait for all these old games to download, but just to be able to jump in, and it takes a little while, but you can stream these things. And for techies out there, so my internet pipe, 700 down, 300 up, so solid fiber overall. But I was playing like Celeste on this thing and couldn't notice a huge input delay when streaming for that stuff. You can also download it, but just for streaming, I know people have been experiencing PlayStation Now for so long, but
I wonder if something like Celeste, if it's just kind of temporarily downloading it and then playing it off of the hardware.
I don't think so. No, I think that was streaming. I mean, it was fast enough where I don't think it could be like the partial download thing. But yeah, it's got a lot of quirks. It's interesting. Like the PlayStation 3 section is kind of buried, and that's really where you're overwhelmed by so many games that you have never heard of in your life. Like if you go alphabetical, all right, Kyle, are you ready for this? Just to give you a taste of like some of these PS3 games that you can stream on your PS5 now with PlayStation Plus Premium. Alphabetical, Air Conflicts Secret Wars, Air Conflicts Vietnam, Alien Rage, Alien Spidey, All Zombies Must Die, Alone in the Dark on PS3 starring Mark McDonald.
That one I know.
Hey, Sarah, have you ever seen Alone in the Dark on PS3, the box art for that? You should Google Alone in the Dark PS3, because back in the day, Mark McDonald was convinced they modeled it on his face. Anyways, Anarchy, Rush Hour, a game called Anna, Anomaly Warzone Earth, Aqua Panic, Arcana Hearts 3, Love Ma, Armageddon Riders, Arna Surge, Ode to an Unburned Star. It is just a load of those games that you have never seen or heard of on the PlayStation 3, but there's good stuff scattered in there as well. What's your verdict, Sarah? Is that Mark from 8-4?
Honestly, if you flashed it in front of my face really fast, I would agree that it does look a lot like him.
Okay.
But on further inspection, I would say that it's not quite, a 1-to-1.
Okay. All right. Not exactly a mirror. But they also have fun stuff like, they got Trash Panic on there for PS3, like some things which I haven't thought about for so long. There's a lot of Lego games, a lot of Disney stuff. Kyle, they have Toy Story Mania on PS3. So if you want to check out that game that was ported from the Wii, if you recall that weird thing.
Like a party game?
Yeah, it's like you shoot targets. Okay. It's really almost a zero, but if you want to hear a lot of Tom Hanks's brother screaming into a mic. And there's weird quirks too for like some of the stuff that you can stream on there as well. Like, hey, I wanted to check out Killzone Shadowfall's multiplayer to see what that would be like if there's a player base and jump in to stream that. But in order to play the multiplayer, you needed to download the DLC maps, and you can't do that if you're streaming it. So there's just like little quirks in a lot of these games. Some of it's a little bit janky. There's also a handful of PS1 games. It's weird to see trophies for IQ on the PlayStation 1, and you can rewind the PlayStation 1 games, which is kind of cool.
I didn't realize they had trophies. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, like Siphon Filter has trophies and stuff. Most importantly, though, from all this, we learned during that stream where I was checking out these games that Sarah, apparently somehow, in defiance of everything that we should all hold dear, you've never played Tokyo Jungle?
No. Once I was around to realize its existence.
Right.
It was lost to the test of time.
Wow. Okay, so this is a PlayStation 3 game. So Sarah, if you jump up, look, I'm not trying to sell you on this stuff, but
I want to play Tokyo Jungle, but the issue was PlayStation was not offering me a way to play Tokyo Jungle apparently until now.
That's right.
Now.
This PS3 game where you play as a bunch of little animals, including cute little dogs in post-apocalyptic Tokyo. It's available now. I really feel like that's a good Sarah streaming game. It is right up your alley. I'm sorry to tell you.
I know. Would you think I want to be that little Pomeranian so bad?
I know. Well, there you go.
In apocalyptic Tokyo.
So yeah, PlayStation Plus Premium. I was impressed by it overall. It seems like the type of thing where if you're looking for a unique way to spend a weekend or maybe a month, upgrade for a month and see what you think. Because jumping around to that many games is kind of novel on the PlayStation 5, and having Mark of Kree in like your PlayStation 5 home slots kind of cool. Mark of Kree rules. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there. Except every game you stream, it sends you a notification email that like, thank you for purchasing Mark of Kree. Or it's like, that's just a simple notification setting, but it annoyed me at the end of the day. Sarah.
Yes.
Summer Game Fest, Sarah.
Yes. My gosh.
All right. So you got on a big old jet plane eventually, and you went all the way out to LA because this is a big event put on by Jeff Keighley and then also I Am 8-Bit, dear friends of the show, where a bunch of people in the press went and played games in a room for a couple days. Walk us through it. What is it?
It was like if you took like a West Elm catalog and then put a bunch of games in it.
Okay.
That is kind of what the event space looked like. It was an open room series of 4 TVs. They were calling it a pods. And you could sit on these like little West Elm couches with the developer and kind of get a hands-on walkthrough of most of the games that were featured in Summer Game Fest, a lot of the Day of the Dev games. But it was very Los Angeles.
Okay.
It was very Los Angeles in the experience in which there's like food trucks. At the end of the day, they had an open bar. Like they had like a patio that you could sit on and listen to a DJ while you were waiting for your appointments. Like the meeting rooms were all also in like little West Elm outdoor catalogs.
Cute.
It was kind of it's like how Summer Game Fest was the video game awards without the awards.
Right.
This was like the E3, but just like give it the E3 that people say that they want E3 for, which was mostly catching up with like their fellow industry people.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Keighley really said like, okay, you guys want an event where you can play some games and basically reacquaint yourselves after maybe 2 years of not seeing each other. He was like, I'll do it for you. This is it. This was the event.
Did you get to meet?
Yeah, I'm surprised to learn all this, Sarah, because from the outside, it seemed like all that was there was just Street Fighter and nothing else.
That if you had looked online, it was literally just a Street Fighter event.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be, I think, the game of the show overall for this season. Like, everyone was just gaga about Street Fighter.
It very much like someone described it as like an old arcade where like you had appointments to play Street Fighter, but people were like hovering like flies so that if somebody tried to play it alone, they would like zip up and be like, hey, can I play with you?
That's fun.
Like, I know you have an appointment right now, but can I like hop on with you? Literally like jonesing to play more Street Fighter.
Lining up quarters.
I do think that's a beautiful way for Street Fighter 6 to have more of an impact. But like, hey, remember the heydays of arcades? And like that idea of now you're reunited with the people in the industry that you haven't seen for a couple years. And just to have that like local multiplayer vibe coinciding perfectly with this reunion, I think that's a hell of a showing for Street Fighter 6. Did you play it?
I did. I went up there and the PR guy was very nice. He was like, just if you have any questions, ask this gentleman over here. And I turned around, I looked him dead in the eyes, and I said, I have never played a Street Fighter game.
Whoa.
And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and then he was locked in playing with me to kind of like walk me through it. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm actually the Monster Hunter PR guy. So we were we were evenly matched. I really enjoyed playing with him. We were very evenly matched. Like he had to play on like the fight stick and I got the controller.
Nice.
So evenly matched, but I was really impressed. One thing that I didn't know about Street Fighter 6 was that this is the first game featuring like the modern control set.
Yeah, we're streamlining everything.
I didn't even realize that. And the modern control set definitely, it plays more like a Smash, plays more like a modern fighting game. So much easier to pick up.
Do you remember, I know this is a tricky, weird question, but like, so to do a Hadouken, you don't have to go down right. Now it's just, you can just hit what? Are you hitting L2 and then a direction or what is it?
No clue.
Again? Okay.
I basically played Chun-Li the entire time.
Okay, gotcha. But to do special moves, it's just basically, here's the button, everybody. It turns out that's not the hard part about fighting games.
It's like a button with a combination of a shoulder button makes it a special move.
Right.
So it's not like you don't have to constantly press more than one button to like achieve something.
Yeah, I mean, did it work for you? Did it make it fun?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was easier to pick up, and I felt like even after one match, I kind of had a general idea of like what did what. Versus when I used to play Street Fighter and I would just be like smashing as many buttons as possible.
Well, hold on. You said you never played Street Fighter, Sarah.
Well, I played once in like I got told that I needed to compete in like a college Street Fighter tournament because nobody was signing up for it and it was fight stick. And I literally just went like, and I like made it to the end. And then I lost at the very end. Very disappointed.
I get it.
Ended my esports career.
Did you learn any more about that weird World Tour mode? Because I think that was like maybe the most surprising moment of this entire season was that shot of like a character walking around in the world in Street Fighter 6 and punching boxes.
Did not reveal that. It was basically 2 fighting stages.
Yeah.
4 characters to pick from. And then that's all they had there.
But that's
which was apparently a lot for most people. That was enough.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, mission accomplished. I mean, they made it more approachable. They turned some heads with new modes. Like, I feel like that's all they were hoping for this big outing. The hardcore fans are saying it's pretty different from 5 and 4, but they can dig it. Maximilian Dude gave it a thumbs up over there, so hey, I guess it seems good. Okay, the whole thing for this show, I think it's just a nice opportunity to be jealous of everybody in the industry. It was just a lot of you glad handing. You know, I'd watch the Giant Bomb tour and see you come up to Timur and Lucy and introduce yourself, and my heart melted. I thought it was so sweet. It's like, oh, I get to watch Sarah introduce herself and mention MinnMax to somebody.
Essentially, you get to watch me kind of have like my like J-pop idol debut onto the journalism side of the industry, because I used to be on the marketing PR side.
Right.
So it's like now I'm like aggressively pivoting. And like I also met King Krista previously of the Nintendo Minute, now of King Krista.
Yeah.
You know, so it was a big like it was like a big change for me being on like the media side, going from the marketing side.
What stood out? What was it like?
Everyone was so, when I would play somebody's games, because usually I was the person like helping people play the game.
Right.
But when I was playing the game, people were like, oh my God, like you're doing really well. Like you're doing so good. And I was like, I think I might be really good at games. And they were like, Sarah, they have to tell you that because they want you to say good things about their games. And I was like, what?
Yep. Turns out that's how it
I was
works.
like, what do you mean? I thought I was really doing a good job.
No, sorry to let you down.
No.
I mean, was it bizarre? Do you feel like you had extra insight into what they're doing just because you had been on the developer side of the fence?
I definitely felt a little more comfortable like talking to the developers and maybe more the marketing PR people than I did talking to other people in media.
Oh, really?
Mostly because like they were so busy. They were like, oh yeah, I got to write like, 5 stories coming out of this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I would just like sit down and I talked to the person who did who developed Darktide, Warhammer. I looked at him and I sat down next to him and I was just kind of waiting to play. And I looked him dead in the eye and I was like, so can you explain Warhammer?
Oh no.
And the look on his face, he was like,
How much time do you have?
Yeah, literally, how much time do you have to sit here?
Okay, what was it like though? You're living the dream. You got to go there and meet people like Kit and Krista. Just tell us some good interactions. Like who's your favorite person, least favorite person? Give us the dirt.
Oh, I met Jeff Keighley.
Shut up!
Jeff
Really?
Keighley came up. He came up. I was talking to somebody else, and he came up and introduced himself. I don't know what I said. I blacked out.
Did you say MinnMax to Jeff Keighley?
I did. I said, I'm Sarah from MinnMax. And then he just kind of looked at me and he asked me something about Summer Games Fest. And I was very complimentary. And he said, I like your energy. So just write that on my gravestone. Jeff Keighley likes my energy.
How many phones was he looking at in his hands while he was saying that to you?
Well, I don't think he had a phone out at the time.
Wow.
But like it kind of felt like Bloody Mary. Like whenever you would say, like you'd say Jeff Keighley 3 times and he would just like appear behind you. Like, what are you saying? Like
energy.
Yeah.
Good energy over here.
Right?
Keighley impression.
That's amazing. So was it more fun on a gameplay level or more fun on a social level, do you think?
The games are really fun. I will say I played like most of the games there were a lot of fun to play, and I hope they get, I hope they have great launches, but definitely it felt like more, he kept like, it's supposed to be an intimate event.
Uh-huh.
Like, so definitely it felt like people were like catching up with each other after like being apart for so long. And there were a lot of like post Summer Game Fest social events that they were also holding and kind of encouraging people to go to. But
okay, did you go to the cool parties?
I mean, I did.
How was it?
But it was weird because people were like, oh man, like they're really only letting like, like really important people in. And I was like, they let me in. So I don't know about that. Like, I was like, are you sure about that?
Don't tell that MinnMax is just run from a basement. You're being too humble, of course. Watching us live at the Backstage Pass here, they just say Sarah met John Drake. Did you meet
I did.
Really?
And I didn't know who he was when I was talking to him.
What?
I was like, we were just having a really good conversation about Disney, about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden I got like a Twitter follower the next day with like 40,000 followers, and it was like John T. Drake, and I was like, oh, because I knew him from Twitter, but I was like, I didn't know that I was speaking to a legend.
Speaking of legends, did you see that interview from Kim Wallace over at Game Informer, who's actually leaving Game Informer, wild times. But you see the interview she did with Nomura, where he said that he was the reason, he was kind of dragging his feet on Sora being included in Smash. Everybody assumed it was the Disney lawyers, but apparently Disney and probably John Drake was like, please put Sora in Smash. And then Nomura was the one that's like, it doesn't fit the Kingdom Hearts lore. Like, can you imagine that?
Nomura really seems like he's his own worst enemy, and he's Square Enix's worst enemy. At the same time. Like, I'm going to say it.
He's fans' worst enemy. He's fashion's worst enemy, but we love him. Gotta love him, that old son of a gun. So social highlight was Keighley or John Drake?
Yeah, and then I also met the Giant Bomb people, which was great after seeing them. Kit and Krista. I caught up with Jeff Cork, showing a very cool game, Escape Academy.
Oh, really?
Lots of fun. Yeah, it was a really fun game. People really that was kind of like the secret hit of the show floor was Escape Academy.
So this is, I Am 8-Bit's game, and Cork was actually demoing it?
Yeah, he was working the pod.
Oh, that's amazing.
Not a booth, it's a pod.
How much did you talk about Chibi Robo?
He said that somebody came up to him and said that they liked the Chibi Robo stream.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Okay, so Escape Academy is just like a co-op game where it's just a virtual escape room. Is that the premise?
Yeah, essentially the premise is instead of like, it's like Hogwarts, but instead of learning magic, you're learning how to escape.
Oh,
so the goal is you're like a student learning how to escape these many escape rooms that get like progressively wilder and wilder. And then there is sort of like a story baked into it. You can play it single player or with 2 players. I recommend 2 players because it's just a lot easier to like figure stuff out within the time limit.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll have to check that out. The big one. I'm officially now asking you about it, so start the clock.
Yes.
Sonic Frontiers.
Woo!
You got to play, and you can talk about this? Is this embargoed? How does this work?
There's 2 embargoes. There was one for the overworld, and then there's another one later for things that I cannot talk about because Sega. I signed an NDA. Sega knows what I look like. I'm afraid they're going to come to my house at this point, honestly. But definitely playing it it plays a lot differently than what you expect watching the IGN showcase.
Really?
On it, yeah. It played. This isn't saying a lot, but personally, I think it was probably the best Sonic 3D game in terms of controls. It felt really good. And that's not saying a lot because they're 3D Sonic games, but it felt really good.
Because in that gameplay demo, every time Sonic was walking, it looked like the worst crap I've ever seen in my life.
Sonic walked a lot. I realized that was a choice. Sonic actually doesn't walk that much in the overworld. So I don't know why they did that. But I was like zipping all over the place as Sonic. It's a lot easier to get into the flow of like going from jump pad to onto the rails, off of the rails, to the zippy zip all over the place. The battling felt a lot better than it looked.
Okay, so better than the gameplay demo would lead you to believe, but I mean, where are you at overall for like quality? You think this is going to be a good game?
Here's the thing. I see 2 types of opinions coming out online.
Yeah.
It's people comparing Sonic Frontiers to other games coming out in 2022, and then people comparing Sonic Frontiers to other Sonic games.
Right.
Okay? Neither is, wrong and neither is correct. Okay? But that's the 2 opinions. I'm in the camp of comparing it to other 3D Sonic games.
So
in that it is going to be exactly what I expect.
This seems like the type of game, I think this is going to have, like 10 years from now, a crazy fan base of defenders. It feels like a weird entry, and there's always fans of Sonic games, and that combined with this one being weird, I feel like it's weird to call a Sonic game a cult classic, but I feel like it's being set up for that level of fandom.
Yeah, they're really setting it up as like, this is like this is like the new Sonic, like this is the new twist on Sonic. We're like thrusting Sonic into like a new generation of Sonic games. But I'm like, you say that with every Sonic game you release, is like, this is the new generation of Sonic, and then you just wait for us to react.
Yeah.
If we like it or not. So I feel like time will definitely tell with this one. It really doesn't feel like we haven't seen most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, so they emphasized that all we've seen is the first island. And that there are plenty of linear levels as well, apparently. So like that whole grass environment, that's just the first island. And also, it's not an open world game.
It's an open zone game.
Who can forget? An open zone
Please remember it's open zone.
Right. Also, a little tidbit that popped out, I think it was in the Axios interview. Apparently, it's only a 60-person team for just framing your expectations for what a team can pull off for tackling something that appears as big as it is. Like, okay, 60-person team. Also, weird tidbit. The guy who's been working on Sonic since Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in that Axios interview, he says, quote, "As you probably know, in Japan, the Sonic games aren't as popular as they are here, like in the West and in America and Europe. So a lot of people on the Sonic team, they're not these fans who played it and are like, yes, I'm on the team now. A lot of them know Sonic the character, but they didn't grow up playing the games."
Weird.
Isn't that
I feel
weird?
like I don't want to know that.
I know. I feel like it really colors.
I actively wish he had never said that.
It colors my perception. Sonic colors my perception. I got you. Don't write in next week about how I didn't say Sonic colors my perception.
It explains a lot.
It totally does.
It really explains a lot.
Because
once again, I cornered the head of PR. No Chow Garden.
Ooh.
I know. I cornered him. I tried to dig some information out. No Chow Garden.
Okay.
Which, if it had been made by a team of people who actually liked Sonic, there would be a Chow Garden.
That could be. So, Sarah, are you saying the magical words cautiously optimistic about Sonic Frontiers? Is that what's happening here?
I mean, like, you have to understand that, like, I will ride the 3D Sonic train into hell
It's
no
already
matter
there.
what.
It's already there.
But
We're
in
trying to write
terms
it
of,
out.
I will ride this burning dumpster like to the grave. Compared to the last game, Sonic Forces, which I didn't like and I didn't play, I am actually looking forward to Sonic Frontiers.
Okay. All right. There it is. And they say it's coming out 2022 still. Again, for expectations, it's coming out on the Switch as well. I'm curious how that's going to run and what that's going to be like, but we'll see. Anything else from the show that really stood out to you?
Metal Hellsinger, the 3D rhythm fighting game.
Oh, yeah.
See, that was a sleeper for me. I didn't even mean to play it. They sat me down and man, once you really get into it and like the lyrics of the song start to kick in, like the better you do, they'll reward you with the actual lyrics versus just the rhythm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Once that like metal music like really kicks in and goes into high gear, you feel pretty cool.
Yeah, this is the one that has like the singer from System of a Down contributing, and it's like it looks like Doom 2016, but if Harmonix made it. Yeah, weird one. Metal Hellsinger. That's cool. I'm sure we can do some more mopping up and stuff for next week if we forgot to cover anything for games we played. But first trip as a member of the press, Sarah, conclusions?
Oh my God. Like, people really just want to make the media happy. I'm used to being on the groveling side. Like, finally being groveled to, like, feels pretty good. Feels pretty good, man.
Really? So you're into the ass kissing from everybody in the PR world.
I feel like I've been on both, I've been on both ends of it, so I can commiserate with like marketing and PR people, and I treat them like people.
Interesting.
But yeah, definitely like, I didn't realize like, they're like all the perks that come with it, and they're like, do you want a key for this? Like, are you gonna release content about this? Are you gonna say nice things about this? And I'm like,
Don't promise anything, Sarah. Don't promise those demons.
They're like breaking down my door. They're like, where's the content?
Yep, that's how it works. Did you get some cool swag?
I did. I got a big bag of swag, but like the Summer Game Fest socks, the exclusive socks. Did you guys see those? Yeah, they have socks that are Summer Game Fest branded. I don't have them with me, but the issue is that like they fit me, which means that they literally will not fit anybody else. I do not think that they will fit anybody unless you're a very small woman.
All right.
So interesting.
There we go. Future of Games Press. All right. Hey, Kyle, do you know how this whole thing operates?
Patreon.com.
Patreon.com. Everybody, you can head to patreon.com and find the tier that's right for you. We are basically fully funded from Patreon. We have YouTube and we have Twitch, but that is a sliver for our overall support. So if you want to help support independent games media, please go to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Your support can make a very direct difference. Thank you to new supporters like Dominic Guerrero, new $50 supporter over there, joining the Game Champion tiers. Thank you so much, Dominic. Also, it's a good time to join and support us in any way. Maybe if you've enjoyed our Summer Game Fest coverage in general, or if you're just feeling greedy and selfish, because this Sunday, June 19th at 2 p.m. Central, we have the next big episode, which is Trivia Tower, the Grand Round.
Round.
Thank you. Sarah, you are on it. There it is, everybody. What this is, if you jump in and support us at the $2 tier, just the $2 tier on Patreon, especially if you're in Europe, because we're doing this at 2 p.m. Central for everybody in Europe. So this is your chance, everybody. Please jump in at the $2 tier on Patreon, compete in video game trivia this Sunday through the Discord, and let us know if you have any questions about how that works. There's previous examples and episodes up on YouTube you can check out. But compete in video game trivia. If you're the last person standing, you win $1,000. Now, here's the twist. I don't know, hopefully this isn't a twist. That's $500 for you. I'll write you a frickin' check. And then it's $500 for a charity of your choice. And it can't be like, you aren't a nonprofit, no matter how many times you say it. So it has to be a real charity. But please help support independent games media and help support a charity of your choice. If you win, jump in at the $2 tier on Patreon and compete in Trivia Tower the Grand Round. Our co-host for this month is the one and only from Delayed Input, formerly of Easy Allies, Kyle Bossman will be joining us. And look, I'm a big fan of Kyle Bossman's work. I'm not trying to kiss his ass too much, but more than any other Trivia Tower guest, he is excited and he has just been pitching ideas for categories and Hail Marys. And he's had at least 5 suggestions where I'm like, I am kicking myself I didn't think of that. It is so good. It is such a good idea. So there's going to be a lot of very funny, wacky rounds in there. So please jump in, support us on Patreon, and compete in Trivia Tower with a grand round. We would love to see it. Thank you to our other supporters, including the creators of, Jeff, get a load of this, Ticket to Ride San Francisco, the new version of Ticket to Ride, which is releasing in Target stores on June 19th. You can get this new edition of Ticket to Ride. Jeff, I assume you like Ticket to Ride, yes?
Of course.
One of the greatest tabletop games of all time. There we go. It is fun. And genuinely, I was craving playing more Ticket to Ride because I was like, oh, it's one that I really like, but I always forget to go back to it. And so now we have Ticket to Ride San Francisco. It is a newly designed map covering San Francisco itself. There are tourist tokens now that you're collecting as well. It's easy to learn in about 3 minutes, they say, and this is a more portable version of Ticket to Ride as well, and it's appealing to beginners. So if you like Ticket to Ride, you want a new version, or if you've never played one of the greatest tabletop games of all time, you can check out Ticket to Ride San Francisco. Thank you for your support. Also, thank you to our dear friends at I Am 8-Bit. They want everybody to know about Dust Biters. Now this is tricky because this is genuinely one of my favorite tabletop games, but if I talk about it during this promotional segment, it feels just completely hollow and gross. Jeff, have you played this game yet? God, you monster! It is.
I'll play it by the time you ask me that next.
Please do. Dust Biters, it's a 2-player tabletop card game inspired by Mad Max, you can say. I really love it. I brought it on my honeymoon and played it in Alaska, as Sarah saw on that New Show Plus episode. So if you like 2-player simple tabletop experiences, please check out Dust Biters with the new 2nd edition, and you can get it from I Am 8-Bit's online store. Everything in that store you can get for 10% off, everything under $100 for 10% off by using the promo code this month, JUNEBUG. Junebug, no space. Junebug, everybody, check it out. And because I Am 8-Bit so generous, each and every week they ship out a prize to whichever community member submitted the greatest question for us to go over and share on the show. And this week, whoever has the best question submitted over on Patreon is going to win Manifold Garden on Switch. Kyle, name another podcast that ships out a physical prize, like a Switch physical game, every single week to the community members who support us on Patreon. Name one, I dare you.
I can't.
That's my point. So thanks so much for your support. We really appreciate it. All right, Kyle.
Yes.
We're going to let you go, but it doesn't mean we don't love you.
I'm going to interpret it that way anyway.
Okay, great. Thanks for being here, dude. Good job hosting. Everyone loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Oh my God. Ana Diaz herself?
Just appeared out of nowhere after a cloud.
Unbelievable. Welcome. It's Ana Diaz, everybody, a MinnMax contributor. Welcome back, Ana.
Hi.
I went and checked, and I could not believe the numbers that I was seeing. But apparently the last episode of the podcast you're on was January of 2021.
Too long.
It was too long. Jeff, his child wasn't even a twinkle in his eye last time you were on here. That's amazing. But you came back to start doing MinnMax stuff a couple months ago? Was that 2 months ago? A month and a half ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And I've been doing streams with Sarah.
Mainly it's quote unquote feral and unhinged streams for Steam Secret Stash over on Twitch and then on our YouTube channel as well. But it's nice to have you back on the main podcast, Ana.
No, I'm excited. I'm happy to be here.
Nice. How's your summer going? How's the Summer Game Fest coverage over at Polygon for you?
It's, it's like kind of scattered because, like with E3, you like had an idea of what you're getting into and people planned appropriately.
Right.
But like this time, I would say it's just like, it feels like there's like less news, but it feels just as chaotic because it's all coming in like these weird installments and like not the regular schedule. And so that's been a challenge.
Right. The schedule is weird. And also just trying to predict anything is weird. Like, all right, Capcom's having a showcase. I don't know if that's going to be like Gearbox's showcase last year or if that's going to be a complete unveiling of gameplay for Resident Evil 4. It's just so tough to plan any of this stuff. And it's just, I want to get into the normal rotation of things, but they won't let us. Hey, we got a bunch of questions over on Patreon, though. Procyon number 6 writes in and says, hey, Ben and friends. Ana, I'm so glad you're here for answering this question. We need your intelligence for this one. How do you like your ladders? Are we talking button prompt to mount, just walk into it and animation starts, no animation, or the arcane method of no ladders at all? This is killer. Ana, how do you like your ladders?
Okay, so it depends. If it's an open world game where I can climb any wall, then I'm fine with no prompt. But if it's not an open world game and I'm not sure if I can climb the ladder, then I appreciate a button prompt because I might not walk up it unless I get a button prompt.
Right. That's interesting. If you're not sure about the possibility space of the game. I think that's correct. I think that makes sense.
And like pressing a button can be very satisfying. Like go up the ladder.
The only thing I care about is absolutely having the option. And I feel like games are pretty good about this, about going down those ladders. I need the quick slide down option.
The old slide, yeah.
The old slide. It's a must. Even like, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was so delighted with that. You have the quick slide. I feel like more games than you expect are smart with that quick slide. It's very, very forgiving.
I was going to say, I want the ability to jump onto the ladder. If I run and I jump and I throw my body at that ladder, I better start climbing.
Right. It'd be nice to have a little extra animation, feel like a Team Eco style, where it's like you can grab onto the ring and you kind of wiggle a little bit before you actually latch on. I feel like there's a lot of animation possibilities here with ladders. I probably mentioned it before, but it was one of those weird tidbits from visiting Arcane. They mentioned that ladders aren't allowed in their games. They have a rule, no ladders. And the idea is they don't want ladders because it naturally limits player actions if you're on a ladder. Like you can't do all of your player abilities if you're on your ladder, and they don't want to limit any players at any point, so therefore no ladders are allowed in their games.
So it's like purely a stair-based economy
That's
over
right.
there?
That's right. That's why there's no ladders. Ooh, here's the question though. How do they get around this? Because there's a lighthouse in Redfall. You can't have a lighthouse.
Probably whirly
Spiral
stairs on the
staircase?
inside. Yeah,
Yeah.
spiral stairs.
Yeah, you're right.
Really
I didn't think
stairs.
about that very obvious thing. Okay. Dan Vallone writes in and says, a long time ago, I was playing Super Mario Brothers on the NES with my cousin. He said, we have 3 Marios left, which I hadn't heard before. I'd always said 3 lives left, and this has bothered me to this day. Recently, I saw the movie The Prestige, and I started thinking, is this the same Mario? Or is each new Mario just a clone? What happens when Mario dies? Is an extra life some kind of Mario resurrection? Great question, Dan. Thank you for writing in.
Sounds like a great concept for an indie game.
An indie game about Mario?
I don't know. It just seems like a clever thing. Like at the end, you reveal that every life was
Just
independent.
a giant pile of bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of related to like the Super Meat Boy thing, where after you finish the level, you get to see all of the versions of you that go through. But I feel like the closest a big game has gotten to this theme, and I don't know if this is just a fan theory, but BioShock Infinite, Jeff, do you think it's like canon in that game that every Booker that you die with is a different Booker? I think that's like softly canon in my mind.
I can't.
So a headcanon.
I guess that's what I think. It's beyond headcanon. I feel like the community is like,
Okay.
it implies it, but I don't know if it is explicitly like every Booker is a different Booker. But yeah, no, I think there's infinite Marios. There's like 128 of them at least, based on that old tech demo.
Yeah, if you jump on that shell that's on the stairs, then there's infinite Marios.
So you're creating more Marios in the universe every time a shell bounces back and forth a lot?
Yeah, maybe it's like you're storing up energy. It takes energy to create a new Mario.
Right. And so, yeah, and the greatest form of energy in the Mushroom Kingdom is shell
I just
on
like this
block.
question because when you gave it to us, you said all it said was what happens when Mario dies. And I thought it was like this existential question of,
It's not?
oh God, Mario's going to get old.
Oh, well, we don't know how they're going to end that Illumination film, which, Sarah, I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but
Here we go.
here we go.
What could it possibly be?
The death of Mario. Luciano Comasetto wrote in and says, welcome back, Ben. I've been playing an RPG on Game Pass called Dodgeball Academia. Came out last year. Do you remember this one, Anna? Did you play this thing at all? It seemed good. It seemed good. They say it's from a Brazilian developer and it has an awesome art style. One interesting feature is a quote-unquote learning mode where you can switch back and forth between any of the languages included, as well as turn on a secondary set of subtitles in a different language, letting you practice your Portuguese. Isn't that a cool idea?
That's sick.
That is very.
love
I
that.
feel like somebody, like a developer, was like just doing it to practice, and they were like, "We should just leave this in. Like, we should just leave it in the game because it just seems so specific." But I would love, especially like maybe more like Persona games, to kind of give you that option. I think the screen could get really cluttered, so I think it depends on how much there is to say.
Right.
But I feel like that would be a really cool way to experience some games with like subtitles for your subtitles.
I think so too. Even just like, when I was trying to practice my Spanish, it was always helpful to just watch a movie and then put on Spanish subtitles. I feel like that's kind of the simpler version of the quote unquote learning mode, but it's kind of cool. Like, do you think you learned a lot of Japanese just from watching media or reading subtitles or anything, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, especially like Japanese TV was really useful. Like watching all their reality shows for conversational Japanese was really great. Learning like random words that I otherwise wouldn't know. There are like some games are better than other games, obviously, for learning languages. Like some games are a little too hard. Like I tried Harvest Moon in Japanese, and it's like now you get to learn the Japanese word for every single vegetable, every single animal, and every single garden equipment.
Right.
And
well,
I was just
Dragon
like,
Ball, so I already know it.
This is a little too much for me.
Speaking of which, one of the secret stars of that PlayStation Plus Premium there's this game called Harvest Moon Mad Dash.
Yeah.
You know it, Sarah?
Wasn't it like a multiplayer, like party game type experience?
It's in that arena. I don't think it had a multiplayer mode that I found, but it's like kind of a match 3-ish feeling version of Harvest Moon.
It's like they took Harvest Moon and like applied it to a different IP.
Yeah, well, they basically have
a different game.
Yeah, the name is all over the place for Harvest Moon now, but like we're trying to figure it out. It seems like no one reviewed this thing, but I enjoyed it so much, and like building up your plots, because you're like planting tomatoes, and then if you plant enough of them together, they combine into a bigger tomato, and then you get points based on how big it can be, but you gotta pick it in time. I ended up buying it on iOS because I'm all in on Harvest Moon Mad Dash now, so get ready for the 210s debate. It's gonna be wild. Trevor Corbin writes in and asks, did you ever write to game developers as a child? When the 3DS was announced, I wrote an email to Rockstar to let them know it would be a perfect platform for a new 3D GTA game since it had a circle pad, which would work well for movement. And believe it or not, they did not take my advice. Those guys are pricks. Can you imagine not taking this kid's advice? Did anybody else write in to a game developer?
Just segueing off the Harvest Moon thing.
Ooh, yeah.
When I was in, I want to say middle school, Harvest Moon: A Wonderful Life had come out, which was the GameCube Harvest Moon game.
Yeah, of course.
And I like played through it completely, and then I was just really like confused as why you could only play as a boy, because obviously other games were coming out that allowed you to pick between girls and boys.
Right.
So I wrote it. I don't know who I emailed, but I like emailed like Natsume customer support. My mom was like really supportive about it. Like I wrote out this email in like a Word doc to make sure like the grammar was correct. And then I emailed Natsume customer support, and I was like, would you please like consider putting like a female character in the game? Like I've been playing Harvest Moon for a really long time. I'm a big fan. I would really love to play as a girl. And then they released Harvest Moon: Another Wonderful Life, where the main character was a girl. They literally didn't change anything about the game except they swapped out the boy for a girl, and they turned some of the boys in the village into the bachelors.
Ooh.
But these men were horrible. They were like the lowest of the low because they weren't designed for you to date and marry.
Right.
So you had like, you're going to have to bleep me, Ben, but they had the fuck boy.
Uh-huh.
And then they had emotionally unavailable man.
Oh.
And then they had man who disappears for certain seasons were your three options of who you could marry. But I was so excited. I was so excited that I could finally play as a girl. That I was just like, it's because I emailed them. Like this has to be because and I know growing up now that they didn't read that email maybe it was probably already in development, but
I don't know
I thought I made a difference.
Let's just say you did. And I don't know how like the timeline works out for which one came first, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, I think it's like Harvest Moon 3 on the Game Boy Color was the first one where you can technically play as a girl. But the insane thing is that you can get married in Harvest Moon, right? It's like, okay, you get married, then you have more years to build up your farm and do all this stuff. If you play as a woman in Harvest Moon on the Game Boy, if you get married, it just rolls credits, and that's the end of the game. It's like, well, mission accomplished for life.
In Harvest Moon Magical Melody, which also came out for the GameCube, if you play as a girl and you get married, when you're like quote unquote pregnant,
right,
they actually lower your stamina faster than the male character. So like I couldn't do anything because like I would walk outside and like try to harvest my plants and I would just pass out because I was pregnant. Like, I literally had to stop playing because it was unplayable at that point. And I was like, why am I being punished?
I don't understand why there's not more girl gamers. This sounds great.
Yeah, this sounds like absolutely top tier gameplay. Really gamify womanhood a little bit more, please.
I wrote an email to Naughty Dog. This would have been like 96 or 97, like right after playing Crash Bandicoot 1 and loving it so much. It would have been 97 because I also loved Final Fantasy 7. And after playing those two games, I wrote an email to Naughty Dog and I said, hey, have you guys ever thought about making a Crash Bandicoot RPG? And I wasn't smart about games back then, but I remember referencing like, Mario got an RPG, so I think Crash should have one too. You should make a Mario RPG. And the amazing thing is I got an email back and they said like, hey, actually, we haven't considered that and it's not likely, but we did make an RPG. We made Rings of Power on the Genesis. So if you're hungry for a Naughty Dog RPG, you can check that out. Which, speaking of wonderful women in games, that's the game where if you put a cheat code in on the title screen, there's like a topless woman character on the screen that pops up. So it's gaming for everybody.
And Naughty Dog gave you that cheat code.
And they gave
That's right.
They were like, P.S.
P.S. Get nasty. And the nice thing is then when I met Jason Rubin, maybe it was in an interview at Game Informer, maybe it was in real life, I forget. But I asked him about that idea and he's like, yep. He's like, that would have been me or Andy Gavin, the co-founder of Naughty Dog. He's like, we answered all of those emails back then.
That's so cool.
Isn't that sweet?
Not somebody didn't respond to me.
Yeah. Yet, Sarah. Jeff, you got one? You emailing?
I did. I think I've shared this before, but when I was a kid, I wrote to Rare about GoldenEye because I told them, hey, you should make a level editor that we can use and just like have them be separate rooms, like design a bunch of rooms and just have it so that you can just put them all together, in what order you want. So we'd have our own maps to play.
Yeah.
And someone wrote back and they said, thanks for the letter or whatever, but that unfortunately would be impossible because if the rooms were off even a little bit, it would break the map and the game wouldn't work. And even as a kid, I thought that was total bullshit.
That is.
That's not how computers work. You can make it accurate enough.
You can make it snap in.
Yeah, and then people from Rare split off or whatever, and they went over and they made Time Splitters.
That's right.
And that is exactly what they did for Time Splitters. They had the editor in there.
That's
right.
It
was all my idea.
And then you took out a quill and you said, lazy
They were just
devs.
throwing me off the scent.
Yeah.
You were like, hey, this kid's got a great idea, but we can't let him know because he'll make millions on the royalties. So just give him a BS excuse. Send him on his way.
That's right. Tanner Methvin writes in and says, hey, everybody, Anna, please rank these breakfast staples from best to worst. We're talking eggs, bacon, toast, pancakes, waffles, grits, sausage, hash browns.
That's a lot. Okay,
it's a lot.
kind of
Just
hard.
like the pieces of breakfast.
Yeah, I was gonna say they all provide something different.
What is this? Anna, when did you learn to answer answers with such questions with such a cop-out answer? That was
Sorry,
the
my
most convoluted
favorite
response.
My favorite's bacon.
Number one is bacon.
Yeah.
So if you had a plate that had everything on this, you'd go for bacon first.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, oof.
I mean, I don't go for bacon first because it's really salty. So what I'll do is do a toast or potato and then bacon and then toast or potato or egg.
Try and
the
even it
bacon
out.
is the flavoring of the whole plate.
Yeah, I want to say, notice that Tanner's a coward and they didn't include French toast on here. Because I feel like that's going to throw off some of these. But even then, I want to say French toast or waffles, number one. But if I go to a restaurant for breakfast, I like getting the 2 eggs and bacon and toast and hash browns.
The eggs, yeah.
Does that mean eggs are number one for a lot of people?
They're number one for me. That's a maker. That's what breakfast is for me.
Yeah. And how do you like them?
Eggs Benedict.
Oh! My God.
I'm an Eggs Benny girl.
Yeah, what are you, royalty? Oh, that's disgusting.
That was not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
That's what I had for breakfast today.
All right, it's impressive.
Just in the kitchen making hollandaise?
Yeah, you make hollandaise at home?
No, I just ordered it.
That's, oh my God, what is your life? Wait, so you're getting Uber Eats for hollandaise sauce?
No, I live really close to a diner, and I just pick up my Eggs Benedict in the morning. Not every day, but I was feeling a little fancy today, okay?
All right, that's good. Grits. Where's grits ranking for people?
I don't like grits.
I don't know if I have a sense of what that even is or what it tastes like.
You can imagine based off the word, I think.
Okay, I'm looking at pictures. That seems fine. I'm sure it's fine. Probably bottom middle is probably where we're going for this. Hash browns, good. Toast with some butter on it. At times when I eat that, I'm convinced I don't know if a better food exists on earth. If you have a really good piece of toast with some nice melted butter, I think it's tough to beat. Sam Morrow writes in and says, welcome back, Ben, and congrats on getting hitched. Thank you. Recently, I've been enjoying the benefits of services like Game Pass and the new PlayStation Plus. Imagine if your younger selves had access to these jobs. Oh, access to these jobs. Feels like a job keeping up with this Game Pass.
Imagine if you could work for Microsoft as a 6-year-old.
Imagine if your younger selves had access to these before jobs, driving licenses, and life's endless responsibilities. How do you think your video game playing would have changed if your 12-year-old versions had access to these endless buffets of games?
I did kind of have access to that because I had GameFly.
Ooh.
And a lot of my top JRPGs were like, I don't know if someone was like working at GameFly and they were just like pushing like Skies of Arcadia, Baten Kaitos like to kids. Tales of Symphonia, GameFly, Chibi Robo, GameFly. Like, I don't know who was working the back end of that, but I really thank them for my education.
So how are they pushing it?
You could like browse the site and it would browse for like games that you had previously tried.
Okay.
And then it would recommend it. But then it would also tell you how long you would have to wait to get the game. So a lot of the games kind of had a longer lead time, especially as they don't send it until you send your game back.
Right.
Which I think is why I ended up on these older JRPGs, because obviously, like, you know, most of America wasn't like breaking down the door to play Skies of Arcadia. But like, I was like, okay, this is like, this looks good and I can get it. Like, no one else is getting it. So like, I played a lot of games. Like, a lot of the games I played on the GameCube and the PS2 were gameplay games.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, you know, I was thinking about this too. I mean, maybe it's just kids naturally gravitate towards where is there just a mountain of games that I can dig through, you know, because like as a kid, I was obsessed with just before Flash even just finding downloadable free games that were just nothing but malware and complete messes. And then I got into emulation and then it was like, hey, here's the Super Nintendo and NES and Genesis. Here you can download every game ever made. And so it already felt kind of like its own little Game Pass for the past, I guess. So maybe just everybody, we would become the gamer that we are today because of this, because we already went through it in a way.
Well, and I think like a lot of kids these days have free games. It's just like free to play. Like they have, you know, like Fortnite and like so many like honestly like solid options that are, you know, free to play. So
yeah, it's like you just have to train a kid to go for free to play games, but then teach your child not to want anything at any point. And I think that's going to be a hard lesson for kids to learn, because if you could just go in, you know, like us cool, natural, sophisticated adults and play free to play games and just like scoff at the idea of loot boxes, but I don't think any child is capable of looking past a shiny shirt that you can put on your character, whatever the hell's going on there. Has your kid played games yet, Jeffem?
No, he's way too young for that.
Really? Is he like...
He has a puzzle, like one of the puzzles where each piece is like an actual animal and you just have to get it into the slot for that one.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
All right, that's pretty good. That was Game of the Year, I think, 93?
Yeah, 1893.
The Uncharted Wolf wrote in over on Patreon and said, hey, I went to go watch the Summer Games Fest in the IMAX screening. I'm very jealous of this. And I have come back.
He was the one.
That's right.
He was the one in the IMAX theater.
He put the I in IMAX. And I've come back with a couple of observations. Firstly, what were the games people in the theater were most excited for? In order of least excited to most hyped, it was Cuphead gameplay, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then most of all, Goat Simulator 3. Apparently got the biggest pop in theaters in IMAX. During the Last of Us segment, I saw multiple people fall asleep. Mm-hmm. That seems impossible. What are you talking about? It was like a 3-minute segment.
I don't know how many people were in the theater.
Yeah. Like the AC's blowing down on you and you have your chair and you're reclining back.
But there's like a giant Jeff Keighley, larger than life kaiju size in front of you, like shouting at you about
kaiju Jeff Keighley
world release, like
and
World premiere.
But then you have
Maybe they had just
soothing.
passed out from terror.
Oh, that's probably what it was. And then they say, and only one person was audibly excited when the One Piece game went on the screen, and that was me. Congratulations, Uncharted Wolf. You killed it. Steister writes in and says, hey, MinnMaxers, one of my favorite things to do is to go back to old reveal videos and see a crowd's live reaction. There's something about a group of people's shared excitement that brings me so much joy. I'm with you. Why do you think people are drawn to watching reaction videos? It's a good question. I mean, they do surprisingly well in our YouTube channel, and I guess it's just like, well, might as well watch it with somebody else. I don't know. I think it's you like to know if you're out of the loop, I guess, because if someone's reacting in a big way to something that you're not familiar with, then it's kind of a reminder, and it's like a second quick review of like, hey, you should pay more attention to this because this is more relevant than you think. I guess that's part of it.
Yeah, I guess if you're watching it live, it's just a way to watch it with other people as opposed to just watching it yourself. Even if you can't, interact with them directly, you get some of that excitement. Yeah. Unless it's me just sipping my tea and people say I might as well be a GIF, but
yeah. Actually, fun fact.
I don't always have reactions to everything single thing.
You're on the internet. You need to have reactions. But fun fact, you have been a GIF for 3 reaction videos. People have to find out which ones those are. It's kind of like our own little Easter egg.
Oh, you keep adding me?
Yeah.
Sweet.
You're just in your own little square sipping your tea.
Yeah, I think that, I was thinking about this too, of like, why am I, or let's generalize and say people in general, like sensitive to recommending things? Like, why are people so eager to recommend things, and why is it so insulting if somebody doesn't like your recommendation? Like, is it just that you're just looking for evidence that you're not alone on this earth and somebody else has the same brain as you and therefore they like this thing, so your brain is ultimately okay? Is that what's going on?
It just got really deep.
Yeah, wait, where are we going? Where did this come from, Ben? Like, are you okay?
No, I'm not. No, I'm just thinking about like recommendations. Like, why is it so easy to get
What does
emotionally
this have
invested?
to do with watching reaction videos?
I think it's the same thing.
No, you're not.
Okay, I guess so. I'm just thinking about if there's any overlap. You're just trying to gauge like where you're at versus where the rest of society's at, just to make sure you're not a maniac. Right? That's what everyone's doing?
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. When I saw this question, I thought we were talking about like those BuzzFeed style videos where it's like teens react to getting $20 or something like that.
How dare you? Charles Davis writes in and says, I have not been able to afford to support MinnMax on Patreon for a long time, but I had to jump in and support you all again just so I could ask this question. Now, bear with me, but this is the question. Charles, hey, buddy, it takes all kinds. Charles supported us on Patreon just to ask, can you explain to me why Squirtle is a clever Pokemon name?
Because it's a turtle that squirts water. It's like a squirt gun.
It's Squirtle.
Interesting. He says wrong. It's because it's part squirrel, part turtle. That
makes sense. The curly tail.
I had never. Hang on.
Really?
I don't think I had ever thought of it.
Sarah has this face like she knew. Did you know?
I feel like I've heard it before, but I mean, like, maybe we can just appreciate that Squirtle works on multiple levels because it loses its squirrel-like features as
it's like a triple pun.
Yeah, it loses its squirrel features as it evolves.
But it also loses the name Squirtle as it evolves.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's like I don't think it's intentionally like it's not like a squirrel turtle forever.
Yeah, I feel like, I blew it. When I was at Game Freak, I should have specifically asked, is it supposed to be part squirrel? I don't know. Ooh, its name was changed from Zenigami to Squirtle. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, they seem convinced that apparently it is actually part squirrel, and that was the entire idea. So thank you for informing us. I don't think I'd really thought about that squirt angle until right now. I think I always just thought squirrel and turtle. But that seems so obvious.
You always thought it was squirrel and turtle?
I defaulted to squirrel over squirt.
And it had nothing to do with like water?
Maybe when, in 1998, I thought it had something to do with water, but it was not in my mind right now that squirt was because of water. So, okay.
Maybe I understand your earlier question then.
About being out of the loop and everything.
You are insane.
Okay, that could be. Hey, Chris Logan writes in with a missed joke opportunity. Says there's been a lot of talk on the podcast about the game Stray, but not one person has mentioned that it's being published by Annapurna. I don't know if you noticed this, missed joke opportunities. Anna, a lot's changed since you've last been on the show. We now, half the podcast is just people writing in about the jokes that we should have said but didn't.
Nice.
But it turns out that it's really just missed pun opportunities is what everyone's really going for with these, but hey, we'll take them.
Do you think Annapurna is cool enough to change their logo like when it comes up at the beginning of the game?
I hope they do. I hope they're not so uptight. They feel like an uptight company though, because it's tied in with the movie thing. And
that's what I'm a little worried about.
Like, changing their Twitter for like release day and changing their like handle, not handle, their like display name to like Annapurna. We're just giving them free marketing advice.
And we're doing their job.
Yeah, good job, Chris. Yeah. Daniel Duran writes in and says, hey, also missed joke opportunity when Brian Vore was talking about the free pizza included with the physical copy of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game from IM8-bit. It's actually from, not IM8-bit, it's the other one. Why am I forgetting the name?
Limited Run.
Thank you, yes. Brian literally said, I hope it pans out for them, as in Pan Pizza, talking about the deal between Pizza Hut and them. No one laughed. All they needed to do was laugh. It makes me wonder if Brian even knew the comedy gold he had stumbled upon. I went back and checked the tape. I think Brian was loosely aware of the pan pun, and I checked the tape, and Jeff, your eyebrows shot up to the top of your forehead, so I saw you at least acknowledge.
I thought it was funny.
Okay, there it was. Ricky Winterborn writes in and says, hey, what side of the Last of Us remake debate are you on? Looks great. Wasn't necessary. I wish they spent this time making something new. I think, thank God, Kelsey Lewin and Jeff, you both echoed my thoughts exactly on the podcast about the most frustrating thing over all of Summer Game Fest was having Neil Druckmann come out on that stage and act like...
he was so sad.
Yeah, like a kicked puppy when he was announcing this game because it leaked on Twitter an hour before.
I've never seen it. He didn't even want to look Jeff Keighley in the eyes.
I know, and
he just kind of looked down and shuffled his little feet a few times.
I cannot imagine how emotionally devastating that would be if you're planning for this surprise, but I mean, it had already leaked like a year before.
It was like only the morning of, which I feel like there's still a bunch of people who have never heard of it.
I would argue a strong majority of that audience was hearing about it for the first time, and then when you're getting out of the gate with this tone of like, yeah, I guess, well, here it is. You know, it wasn't exactly that bad, but it's like, just feign some enthusiasm for the big reveal of your game. Like, you can't be that invested in Twitter to think that like, well, it's game over because a handful of people on Twitter saw this already. It's just, that bummed me out to such a big degree. And it happened, help me find it, everybody on the internet. It happened like within the last 5 years. Another thing had leaked on Twitter, and also was the most deflated announcement, like, well, whatever, you already know, but here it is. And I don't know if it was a Naughty Dog thing, but it was some other big game reveal, and I just hate it. But Ricky, yeah, I'm on the side of the debate of, yeah, I'd always prefer for Naughty Dog to make something new. And the screenshots, it's interesting to see the comparison stuff. Like, I like the way the original Last of Us look in the remaster, because those characters almost seem more like, I know it's not cool these days, but a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more abstract, you know? And I like that angle, just the hand animated faces and all that stuff. So yeah, it seems all right. It's not worth getting upset over in any way. But the thing that was interesting that I don't think many people brought up was just that idea of like, it's not like Naughty Dog was championing this remake from the get-go, because Jason Schreier from Bloomberg, he had a report about this, and then he was also on this podcast, if you recall, Jeff, last year, talking about the origins of this project and how it was a service team within Sony called ASG, I think, and they were trying to pitch like, hey, we want to become like a real Sony studio. Let's start working on a project. And so they started working on, back in 2018, on remaking The Last of Us. And they like collaborate with Naughty Dog a little bit for that as well, like in the early stages. So they got the ball rolling, and then Last of Us Part 2 was delayed and they needed more help. So they brought that team in to help with Last of Us Part 2. And then at that point, it's like, well, Last of Us Part 2 finished. We need something else for all these people to do. Let's go back to that Last of Us remake. So at least according to that reporting, it wasn't even started by Naughty Dog necessarily, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But then they picked it up.
It's kind of facetious to say, you know, I would rather have Naughty Dog work on something new. I do too, but they needed something to work on while they were coming up with whatever that new thing is going to be. So right. I can understand if it keeps them from, you know, firing a bunch of people in like the off seasons when they're working on games, then, you know, go for it.
Yep. Joshua Duproy says, what's your policy on correcting people when they mispronounce a word? Do you take into account how bad they mispronounced it, or if English is their second language? Does your familiarity with them matter? Is it better to let it go in the name of politeness?
Am I turning into Seinfeld
You
while
tell
I'm
me.
asking this?
I think mispronouncing words, it depends on if I'm friends with them. If I'm friends with them, I might correct them. Not maybe to like the full champing at the bit level, but yeah.
Is it your name? Is it a name? Like, name's all correct.
Ooh, name's correct, yeah. I mean, that's your entire life, isn't it, Anna?
That wasn't a missed joke opportunity. You got it.
Thank you.
Right
It's the greatest
there.
compliment. Honestly, how many times a week do you have to say it's Anna?
Well, I've now just like have people in my life who will correct people for me because I'm very shy a lot of times and don't want to correct people.
So you have like name bodyguards trailing you at all times?
I mean, I think it's just friends.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
I feel like I might correct somebody for mispronouncing a word, but something that I'm adamant about is I don't like people calling out if you misspeak, and I misspeak all the time, and I think I'm sensitive about it. But like, just do society a favor. Damn it.
In my head, I was thinking, good thing you're a host of a podcast.
I know. No one acknowledges it. Just if somebody misspeaks, just let it go. Just let it go. They noticed it. It's the most unbearable thing on planet Earth. You're not doing anything but being like, what did you just say?
My pet peeve is when someone derails an entire conversation just to talk about how somebody used the wrong word or like pronounced the word wrong. Like, great. Now the conversation's gone. What? And what? You feel good about yourself? You feel better now? You little smart person? Cool.
You little smart person. Dennis the Door Slammer submits a question over on Patreon and they say, hello, Big Max. Hi. Can a bad or mediocre game be redeemed by a great ending? For example, I personally found going through LA Noire to be a chore, but the final hours hit me in the feels. It made me appreciate the experience as a whole. What say you? Tricky.
I think it depends. It's a question of degrees, I suppose. But I did, I guess I enjoyed, I was like the one person who enjoyed the original Watch Dogs to begin with because everyone hated it. And then Watch Dogs 2 came out and everyone loved it all of a sudden, even though you were doing mostly the same things. But,
here we go.
I agree that the story of Watch Dogs 1 sucked. But at the very end, they did like this completely kind of meaningless choice. They gave you this big choice at the very end, like right before they cut to credits, and it was super effective. And I think it made me appreciate the entire story more than I would have otherwise.
That's good.
And I think I look back more fondly on the game because of that.
I think that's right. Like at first I was like, the ending of a game, can it really impact my impression that much? But then I remembered, not that it's a bad game, but I do think the ending of Brothers Tale of Two Sons is so good that it makes you forget that the majority of that game is kind of mediocre environment puzzles. They're like Lego game level puzzles for 4 hours and then this haymaker. And everybody remembers it as a great game because of that haymaker, I feel like.
I generally think that they can't redeem a game.
Yeah.
But I'm also the kind of person, like, if I feel like I will put down a game if I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Bold of me. And so I won't even make it to the ending. But I have played through games because people said the ending was great.
Right.
Like, I don't think I was going to stick with Kirby, but everyone's like, you have to keep up with it. So I did.
And it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
It's absurd. That ending is so good.
Yeah. But that wasn't like a bad game either.
Totally.
That's why I'm like, okay, like this is like a solid game. And like this ending will help keep me here.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think for like the average gamer, how they walk away from the game at the end, like their final takeaway experience, probably matters more to how they feel about it. But when you're like reviewing a game or when you're forced to like consider it as a whole, I think it might help a little bit, but not as much, because you still have to like consider everything you went through.
Yeah.
And then also, I think what's hard is when you have multiple endings. I think the worst thing that actually makes me hate a game is, again, when you make the wrong decision, so to speak, or you miss something and you get like the ending you didn't want. That can really ruin an experience for me. Things. It's the worst feeling because you're like, I put what? Sometimes some JRPGs you put in like
40 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you said the wrong thing on a boba tea date, and now it's all over.
Goodbye, enjoyment. Canadian submits a question over on Patreon. They say, hey, I have a wedding/video game story in honor of Ben. All right, we'll hear it. My older brother had a Nintendo 64 that he let me play growing up. At an uncle's wedding, my brother said if I danced my heart out to a few songs, he would give me the Nintendo 64. So my 9-year-old self went ham on the dance floor for what felt like forever. To this day, I still have that N64 and it still works. My bro is getting married later this year and I'll be sure to dance at his wedding too. That is very sweet. I love that story. Just this kid just needs to play Mario Party, so he just cannot stop dancing, just dripping with sweat like a maniac. Mark Ramirez writes in and says, Dear Ben of the cohorts, congratulations to Ben on getting married. Thank you. Now that you've experienced your own wedding, I did experience that. What advice do you have for future wedding people? Jeff, what was your wedding like?
I thought this was about you.
Why are you deflecting?
Your wedding.
We'll get to it.
Oh my God.
It was a very small and traditional wedding that involved a lot of drinking, so I don't remember that much.
That's right. Interesting.
Nice.
So would your recommendation be a lot of booze?
No, I mean, it's tough. Everybody has very different feelings about what they want out of a wedding.
Right.
And so...
There it is, everybody. As definitive as possible. Okay, so just going through it, just having gone through it, it was amazing. It was one of those things where there's like a lot of moving parts, even though we had like a small wedding, but it's still like a surprising amount of moving parts. And it's like, oh, any one of these could be bad. Like there was a lot of like lake flies around, and I was like, we're gonna open the garage door where we're having the reception, and all those lake flies are gonna jump right into those potatoes, and this is gonna be disgusting, and everyone's gonna hate us. Everything worked out great. The weather was great. Everything was wonderful. Here's my tips. We didn't have a bridal party, and I feel like that is a great way to go. You save money, you save stress. Just pick 2 people to give speeches or more. That's all you really want. But the idea of like making all these people buy matching clothes, it's just, I feel like all that stuff is unnecessary. Just you should be all about just eliminating potential points of stress for this entire wedding, right? Let's see. Another one is for the dance floor. I had like my old speaker and we were like testing it in this space. And so a couple times when testing it, like the weekend before, I cranked it up to max and it was like, oh God, our ears are bleeding. All right, stop. That's good. That's good. And then day of, I felt like it was too quiet, even on max. Like when you feel that with a lot of people. So my point is, if you have speakers, make sure they can go twice as loud as you think they should if you're just testing it out ahead of time. But it was still a good time on that dance floor. I would have given an N64 to everybody based on the way they were dancing. Here's a weird one. I'm very happy to cry. I feel like I'm comfortable enough crying, but I was so worried that I wouldn't be able to get through my vows without just bawling my eyes out. Cause like writing them, I was just crying. And so I was so worried. I'm whispering because my wife's upstairs and she'll be furious if she hears this. No, but I was so worried that like, I'm going to be such an emotional wreck. I'm not going to be able to get through these sentences during my vows. So like even during like, our run through session the day before and all that stuff, I was like focused on like, just keep it together. Don't cry. Don't make
You're, like,
eye contact.
Staring into the sun.
Honestly, that maybe make me sneeze. It's confusing. So I was just focused on like picking a spot on the grass. I'm just going to focus on that. Like, don't let yourself get too emotional. And then like I got choked up during the day of, but I didn't cry.
Looking at that spot of grass. Like, that's the spot of grass I'm going to look at when I read my vows.
But the point is I was so focused on that. And then it was all over. I'm like, oh, I should have just let her rip. Like the point is to soak in the moment. I should have
like Beyblade, like
let her rip.
Yes, that's exactly it. And just like Beyblade, it's a metaphor. I should have just like, made more eye contact with my parents during the ceremony and like looked out at all my friends more during the ceremony and stuff.
They were like, what's he looking at? Spot of grass.
It really was. I was so focused because like it was funny because we were at like our lake place and there were neighbors next to us with some kids that were like jumping off the dock and swimming. So most of my wedding, I was just watching kids jump off the dock, trying not to cry. And now it's like, oh, I should have just absolutely bawled my eyes out. So that's my advice. Feel free to be emotional. It's better for everybody if you do. Okay, last one, I promise. Jeremy, otherwise known as Fuzzy Gruzzy, writes in and says, hey, Ben, how's your trip to Alaska for your honeymoon? Yeah, I went to Alaska for 10 days, and it was the best trip of my life. It was amazing. But I'm not going to talk about it here because this week's episode of New Show Plus is all about it, where people voted for it. So hopefully it's not too self-indulgent and insane. But yeah, so Sarah and I, for New Show Plus this week, just went through all my photos from Alaska, but I got to see a bunch of whales and bears and moose, and it was a fun time. So you can check out all those photos by checking out our YouTube channel. And then if people vote for vacation photo slideshow again next week for New Show Plus, we'll have to come up with some other vacation to show a bunch of photos of. We don't know what it'll be. All right, an attack corgi.
Expense a vacation?
Ooh, not a bad idea. Well, maybe stay tuned for the next Patreon goal, Jeff. I think we might get something brewing in that department. Anyways, an attack corgi says, hey, what do you think the review score ceiling for the following games are? Do you think the series' best games are behind them? Their highest scores listed below via Metacritic. So do you think that this series can ever top this Metacritic score from the past, is the question. Can the Kirby series ever top an 85 for Canvas Curse? I don't think so.
Canvas Curse got an 85?
Apparently.
Hell yeah.
Some of these are surprising.
I was like a kid, so I wasn't paying attention to critic scores, but that's sick. Sorry, that made me so happy. That's like the best Kirby game.
Just imagine how happy you would have been as a kid if you just would have been whispered that number 85. Oh my God.
You would have had to stare at a patch of grass the entire time.
I would have got so emotional. It's like a pink ball.
As much as I like Forgotten Land, I don't know if Kirby can ever top 85. I feel like that's...
Kirby in the Forgotten Land has an 85.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So maybe they did tie it.
Twist.
Interesting. Well, can it ever top it? I don't think so.
I mean, if they release Kirby Air Ride, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what society would be like?
That's right. A better one, no doubt. Gears of War, Jeff. Can Gears of War ever top Gears of War 1's Metacritic of 94?
No.
Correct. Jeff, Forza. Can they ever top 92? Will the new Forza reboot, which they announced, instead of Forza 8, will that top a 92?
When was the Forza that got 92?
So it was 1, 3, 4, and 5. They're all at 92? That seems crazy.
Wow.
All right.
God. Are we counting the fun ones?
Oh,
the Horizons?
The Horizons?
I don't think so.
Talking about?
I think this is just mainline Forza because
just straight Forza.
Because I wonder what Metacritic is for 5 because that's also a 92. I don't think you can make a better game than Forza Horizon 5. Yeah, it's confusing.
So the next one's going to get 92.
I think it's locked in no matter how bad it is. It will get a 92. Yep. Let's see. Call of Duty. Will it ever top Modern Warfare's 92? 92 is popular, by the way. I don't think so. No. I think it's going to be 80s until the grave. Battlefield 1's 92. Battlefield 1 got a 92. I'd be surprised. No. Street Fighter. Can it ever top Street Fighter 4's 94?
Why are these all so high?
Because they're the highest rated in the series. And Street Fighter's good, Sarah.
I feel like does it feel like it's harder to get a high Metacritic score now than it was in the past? Or is it easier now? Like, that's kind of what I want to know.
I think it's harder because you're averaging more outlets, I'd have to imagine. So, like, yeah, Legend of Zelda, it's not going to top Ocarina of Time's 99. Like, that's a lock. Here's one that's interesting. Pokemon. What do you think the top-rated Pokemon game is on Metacritic?
Which title?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you give us the title?
I'll tell you, here's a hint. It is absolutely not one I would choose. It's one of my least favorite.
Okay. Don't spoil it,
I won't.
But I want to think a little longer.
Okay, here's a hint. I think it's the most janky mainline Pokemon game.
I'm ready to fight you depending on what.
Okay, all right.
Is it like Heart Gold or Soul Silver?
Interesting.
Not right.
Nope, those are the best.
No. I feel like those aren't janky. People, Ruby and Sapphire?
Nope.
No.
They love the horns. They want more horns and water.
Okay,
or whatever.
good. Okay.
Can I tell you?
X and Y.
Yes. Yeah, it's at an 88. Like, I like those games, but like, it's the first one on the 3DS, and they were trying to do like, I just remember, was it Lumio City, where they like brought the camera down? It was like
That's
just
the one that has
chugging
Esper
mess.
in it. I feel validated.
Well, yeah, they say 88, and then in parentheses, because of Esper.
Because of Esper.
That's interesting.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, Pokemon, maybe it could top 88. That seems doable.
It feels like they can surpass
Maybe
that.
they can do it.
Yeah.
If they stop making like 5 games every year
Right.
Yes.
and just like put it all into one.
Yep.
Smart. Kevin Kennedy writes in and says, hey, everybody, my personal Better Quest goal is to run 40 miles this month. We're halfway through the month and have logged 23 miles, right on track. Hell yeah, way to go, Kevin. RichMclaughlin says, hey, everybody, Better Quest alert. I completed my goal of running a full marathon last week. I don't have a question. I just wanted to share that. Rich, we're here to give you a nice round of applause. Janet, the queen of all marathons, is applauding from wherever she is right now, so congratulations. Tanner Hoisington writes in, says, in the last few years, there have been a surge in board game design elements finding their way into video games. Slay the Spire and the like, dicey dungeons, deck building and Back for Blood, Lost in Random, popular adaptations like Wingspan, Citizen Sleeper, and Disco Elysium with their explicit dice skill checks. What the hell is going on in Neon White? Maybe that's tabletop game inspired. Do you think this prevalence of board game mechanics is for the better? Jeff, this one's all yours, dude.
Yes, I love it. I honestly love anytime that you can pull in other mechanisms that give you interesting choices to make, which I feel like so many games miss. Like, they always get so focused on like, well, it's a platforming game, so you got to be able to jump and run around really good, or it's a shooting game, so we got to have a million guns. Like, just give me interesting, weird, convoluted choices and ways to level up characters and things like that. Having a deck of cards to like fight someone is such a stupid idea, but it just leads to a lot of interesting choices.
Yeah, there we go. Have you ever played this game, Jeff? Summit, the tabletop game?
I haven't. No.
It's a mountain climbing game. Yeah, it's really good. I talked about it on the podcast before because Trey Parker from South Park says his favorite game of all time.
I was gonna ask if that was like his favorite game.
We played it a couple times. It's quite good, quite fun. You should get back into tabletop games, Jeff.
I should.
Or you should just play Dust Spiders for the love of God.
I should.
There
I
we
thought
go.
that's what you were going to ask when you started
No.
asking. Hey, have you played this?
Missed joke opportunity. Ryan McGinnis writes in and says, howdy, Ben and the G Unit. That's us. All my life, I've hated the top sheet. I get hot while sleeping and end up fighting it all night. When I wake up, it's a bunched up mess and at the foot of the bed. What are you doing? Like kicking it down? So
Well, like what's above the top sheet?
the comforter.
Nothing?
No.
Like what's above it? Is it like a duvet? Is it a quilt? Is it a heavy duvet?
Can they finish their question, sir? So I got rid of the top sheet and I was finally free. Now I sleep with a big comfy comforter that feels 10 times better than some scrub wannabe sheet. My question is, are you a freak who uses a top sheet? Calling us freaks, I think, might be.
First of all, yeah. Most people use a top sheet.
Is the point of a top sheet, tell me if I have a skewed perception of reality in society, is the point of a top...
shampoo thing all over again.
It is the shampoo thing. Mm-hmm. Is the point of it that it's easier to wash than a full comforter because it dries so much faster,
yes.
So it's like a layer for your filth?
Yes.
That's the primary goal of a top sheet?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
What's a top sheet for in your mind,
leans into the mic and whispers. I don't use my top sheet either. I sleep on top of it.
Wait a minute. So you have a top sheet, but it's your...
Is it like fitted? So do you have a fitted sheet?
Oh yeah, I have the fitted and then
you have the top sheet and then you sleep on top of it.
Wait,
yeah.
That is truly the freakiest answer possible. It's just like one more thing to get all crumpled up and weird. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I am
There's no defense.
So you agree.
I don't have a defense.
Now, is it like a situation where your partner is under the top sheet and you're on top as like a weird layer of separation?
Yeah, because I get warmer.
So you essentially trap them under the top sheet? I cannot. I could never sleep like that.
But I get I run warm.
I find it so hard to believe that a top sheet, which is so thin,
right,
is the make or break in some of these situations.
It's not changing anybody's temperature.
Did you guys know that there's like different types of duvets and comforters you can buy for the seasons.
Yeah,
which is what I learned in Japan.
What if I just don't want 2 blankets and I want 1 blanket?
I kind of get it. I'm not going to be a weirdo and sleep on top of the top sheet, but there have been plenty of times in my life.
I love how Ben is like so worried about being deviating from the norm.
I'm not,
and then
right,
he's like,
I'm good.
yes,
I'm
like
good.
Anna is free.
Shame her, internet. I feel like at times in my life I've gotten rid of that top sheet and it is kind of nice. It's like just simplifying your life. I kind of get it.
But usually my top sheet is, like silkier and smoother than like whatever the top layer is.
But imagine if you had like a silky smooth comforter that was also like a heavy blanket, just like the best blanket possible.
I don't know.
Kind of love, for the record.
Okay. All right. Jeff, I assume you're just sleeping in a pile of shampoo, or what are you doing?
I use a top sheet. I'm not getting on the wrong side of this conversation. Get out of here.
Okay, all right.
Wrong side? When do we moralize the
Yeah, just because I'm not judging
It happened to me last time, Anna. It's not happening again. Leave me out of this one.
I'm not judging anybody unless they're Anna and they sleep on top of the top sheet. That's the only wrong answer in this situation. I'm sorry.
Fair.
I will say recently,
Yeah.
I did switch to a silk pillowcase.
Ooh.
Life-changing.
Okay, so you're sleeping on silk and eating
Just the pillow.
fancy
And
eggs
my
every
Eggs
morning.
Benedict.
Color me interested. Where did you? Is it like shiny silk? Because some silk is like not super shiny.
It's like the shiny silk, but it's always cool. It's always nice and cold against my face.
Right.
And it doesn't like mess up my hair too much. I noticed my hair's been much smoother after sleeping with it.
Silky smooth.
That's a really good point, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I'll sleep with like a silk cap on my hair to keep it like protected.
Yeah.
But like that just eliminates.
Try the pillowcase. I thought that I was like, oh, this is like too fancy for me.
Yeah.
But then I tried it and I was like, dang, this really works.
Yeah, I think we should do a Twitch stream where we just review pillowcases.
What if we pretended we were fancy for a day?
Right. Well, this is the beauty, Anna, of the show that you helped create with Leo, I feel like, was the New Show Plus format, is now we can just put in bed reviews in New Show Plus, and if people vote for it, then...
camera to a mattress store.
So I think why are mattress stores one of like the worst experiences?
I don't like
you have
them.
to lay in front of a salesperson and they just stare at you while you're like trying to decide if you're comfortable or not.
This is cool.
It's impossible because the only way you can review a mattress is if you sleep on it. Like, I can get a first impression of like, oh, this is soft or this is a rock. But other than that, like laying down on a mattress in a store, you're not going to know anything unless you get a good 8 hours. And when a stranger
staring at you trying to sell it to you makes it worse.
Makes it completely worse.
I know we're getting like really sidetracked, but do you guys prefer like softer firm mattresses? I feel like this reveals a lot about a person.
Yeah. I can do anything. I'm a very good flexible sleeper.
Let's answer the question,
Of
Ben.
course.
Whatever everybody else likes, I also like.
I'm going to do a quick Twitter poll. What should I say in this situation? Let's go with 70% firm. Okay. Is that allowed?
What is that? 70%?
Well, I don't know. How else would you answer that? You have to go all or one or the other?
Yeah, I think so.
I guess
It's a false binary.
Yeah, I don't know. What's your answer then?
I like soft.
Firm. Ooh.
Oh.
But I feel like I mean, you expect it at this point.
Yeah. Very
And it was
bougie.
all fur. And so I definitely
It's a
built up
mattress of Eggs Benedict that she's
Gross.
Speaking of gross, let me know if this is like as bottom of the barrel gross influencer as I've gotten. But we really needed a new mattress a while ago, and so I reached out to like a dozen mattress companies because every podcast I listen to, they just seem like they're giving mattresses away. Dan Reichert's like, they keep sending me so many mattresses, I don't know what to do with them. And so I was like, it seems like this is a thing. So I emailed all these mattress companies to be like, I have a podcast. Would you like to sponsor us on the podcast and I could try out your mattress? Radio silence. just a huge mattress slap.
I need you to try again because
I
also want a new mattress.
I know. If you're listening to this, and as far as I can tell, it feels like 30% of the companies in the world are mattress companies. So if you're listening to this, we would love to promote a mattress and sleep like kings and queens, please. So please reach out. Hanson@MinnMax.com. All right. What do y'all like for a question of the week? I think it's mattress.
It wasn't even a mattress question.
The sheet.
It was the fitted sheet question.
Yeah,
I liked the
right.
did you ever write into a game company when you were a child?
I like that too. I feel like we've answered that before. You know what I liked? I liked the kid dancing his buns off for an N64. Just that little story.
That was more of a story though than a question.
Nothing wrong with that.
It wasn't a question.
It doesn't need to be a question. It does not need to be a question.
And then Ben just wanted to talk about his wedding.
Oh, here I go. I never shut up about the wedding. I mean, I think it was a fun story. We don't need questions.
But the sheets.
Yeah. All right. Are we feeling sheets? Are we feeling sheets, everybody? Jeff,
people are going to just stop writing in with game questions and start writing us personality tests at this point.
Believe it or not, that happened a long time ago. We just don't include all of them. There we go. Ryan McGinnis, congratulations. I'm 8-Bit will ship out a wonderful prize just for you. Thank you for supporting us. And now it's time for something that we, of course, like to call Get a Load of This.
Sorry, I'm looking for my Get a Load of This right now.
You're welcome to keep digging. Try and find it.
Okay.
Don't worry. Jeffum's a pro. He'll take it away.
Get a load of this. This is a weird one. It's a YouTube video from a YouTube channel called How to Cook That. But it has nothing to do with cooking. The video is called Debunking Fake Videos and Who's Behind the 5-Minute Crafts YouTube channel.
5-minute crafts.
And basically... Yeah, so there's this cook named Ann Reardon. She does a bunch of cooking shows, but then she started doing, like, people would send in like short recipe videos and stuff, like these 5-minute craft type videos, and she started debunking them, and that's become this whole like side, and they're super fascinating videos because she kind of goes through them, and she had done so many based on this 5-minute crafts YouTube channel that she kind of investigated with her husband, who was a former investigative journalist, and they looked up all this information about who's behind the channel, which it turns out it's like these Russian oligarchs, and they put out just absurd amounts of videos, including some like anti-American propaganda stuff. But they kind of also talk about this economy of like the YouTube algorithm and how people get more views by putting out fake videos than they would actual videos, and like the more outrageous that they get, the more views they get, and so it's a really interesting kind of deep dive on that whole weird economy.
Interesting. Cool. Hey, get a load of this. There is a YouTube video which is just rounding up a bunch of former retro developers. This is from Kiwi Talks. This is the name of the YouTube channel. But it's rounding up a bunch of former retro developers talking about working on Metroid Prime and Donkey Kong Country Returns. And it's just them telling stories of interacting with Miyamoto. Like when Miyamoto would come visit them in Texas, or they'd go to Kyoto for reviews. And there's really interesting stuff in there. Like, they showed them the first demo of Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii. And they were really proud of it because like, well, Donkey Kong feels great to run around. He's like a huge, powerful monkey. And then Miyamoto said, yeah, but I think what this game needs is he needs to be able to crouch down and blow on flowers. Do you remember you can do that in Donkey Kong Country Returns? It's the weirdest thing. And they were all like, absolutely not. What are you talking about? That's the dumbest idea. Why would Donkey Kong blow on flowers? And then ultimately put in the game and realized that, yeah, Miyamoto was right. Like they needed an ounce of whimsy that they didn't have in that game originally. But the part that killed me is this guy tells a story about the first big meeting for Donkey Kong Country Returns over there. They were meeting with Miyamoto, and it was all in Japanese. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to go make this game. This is going to be great. And they were heading out the door, and Miyamoto stopped them. And in English, Miyamoto said to the team, he said, please take care of Donkey Kong. He is my friend. So beautiful Miyamoto talking about his old dear friend, Donkey Kong. And I needed to look at a spot in the grass. Sarah, what do you got?
Yeah, get a load of this. I saw that Netflix is now making a Squid Game reality TV show, which I definitely feel like goes against the point of Squid Games, where they're actually making $456 people compete for $4.56 million.
Mm-hmm.
Am I going to watch it? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, I will. But I definitely feel like maybe this wasn't such a good idea.
Yeah, because a while ago they said, like, oh, we got a bunch of new Squid Game content coming in the future. I don't think anybody thought that they would just take it literally and just make them.
No, especially because I think a month ago they had like major layoffs.
Yeah.
And now they're like, okay, everybody, fight over some money.
It's a fun world we're living in.
I feel like maybe there would be a world where this would be exciting, but I feel like now is maybe not the time.
Sure.
For that.
Yeah. Just make another Floor is Lava season, or whatever the hell that was called.
They did. Season 2.
Oh, there we go. Anna, did you find one?
Yeah. I probably didn't need to announce that I didn't have it, but here we are. Excuse me. So today I spent a normal amount of time watching these YouTube videos. They're like Muppets. They're like, okay, so it's like Muppets singing like metal songs. So it's like a metal Muppets band, and they have them like Sharpied and like pierced and stuff. And the song is called "I Can Only Count to 4." And it's like really funny and really good because they're Muppets.
Of course.
But then it's like metal.
That's good. There's links below for all this stuff. Do you have one from the community, from the Discord channel there, Jeff?
Yeah, get a load of this. This one was from Demon Swordsman, and it's a YouTube video from Toasted Shoes, and it's entitled God of War, but it's The Simpsons. And it's a mod that makes the most recent God of War into Homer Simpson and Bart Simpson, as they do everything that they did in God of War, except they're all voiced. They got like people who sound exactly like Homer and Bart, and so it's a lot of jokes of, you know, Homer trying to chop down a tree very dramatically like Kratos did, but yelling like, "Why won't you go down?"
Also, I mean, he calls him boy. At least in the early seasons, he would call him boy so much. All right, boy. So hey, that's perfect. Good times. Hey. That's it for this episode. Thanks so much for being here, Anna.
Thanks for having me.
This is everybody else. Thanks for being here, but this is Anna's big day, her big homecoming debut.
My re-debut, yeah.
That's right. And if you say, "My God, I miss Anna and her voice. I would like more Anna content," you can stay tuned and check out Steam's Secret Stash, which is Sarah playing a lot of random horrific or bizarre games released on Steam. But there's a new episode coming up on Tuesday. What time on Tuesday, Sarah?
7:30.
7:30. So give us a follow on Twitch, and you can watch that live or check out the YouTube archive on our YouTube channel. Yeah, how would you describe those games that you two have explored so far, would you say?
Milky.
Yeah, very milky. So the point is, so we take all the games released on Steam throughout the last month and then just jump through them, and the chat kind of screams when they want everybody to move on. And normally it's just the most surreal experience. If you like us jumping through Dreams and stuff, it kind of feels like that, but even more janky than the weirdest games in Dreams is how I describe that.
People are terrifying. Like, when I go through Steam Secret Stash, I have to like go to therapy after it, because it's like the games that I have scrolled through, just sheerly looking at like the bottom of the barrel of what's on Steam, it really makes you take a look at society a little bit differently.
Right.
I feel like.
Yep, that's it. So follow us on Twitch. Get ready for the new episode. Also, if you support us on Patreon, you can unlock our weekly Patreon exclusive podcast called Party Chat, where we talk to the community and give updates and tell behind the scenes stories, all that fun stuff. This week, we talked about the big shakeups at Giant Bomb. Kind of talked to the community about all that stuff. And also Dan Tack, formerly of Game Informer, he jumped on and he was on that podcast. So if you really missed Dan Tack, you can hear us podcasting together again on Party Chat this week. And then speaking of Giant Bomb, we had an interview go up on Tuesday where it was me talking to Dan Reichert about leaving the WWE and returning to Giant Bomb and that entire saga, launching with the new team, all that fun stuff. So if you're interested in that and the history and future of Giant Bomb, you can check that interview out on our YouTube channel, or it's also available as a podcast in the $5 feed if you're a supporter on Patreon. And again, remind everybody that Trivia Tower, the grand round,
Round.
Okay, cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for getting my back there. That's happening this Sunday. This Sunday at 2 p.m. Central. So if you support us at any tier, you can jump in and compete to win $1,000. You just have to get lucky a couple times with how much gaming knowledge you have in your head.
Get lucky.
Well, it's a competition, but it's just like if you were nostalgic about this one game and it happens to pop up as an answer, it's a real Slumdog Millionaire thing. I'm like, oh my God, I know that. And then you can make your way to the top. Thanks so much, everybody, for supporting us on Patreon. Thank you to everybody at the $50 tier, otherwise known as the Game Champion tier. We started doing this after you left, Anna. So instead of the thank you tier, now it's the Game Champion tier, where you can jump in, you can claim any game under the sun, and you're officially declared the Game Champion of that. Just so you know.
That's cool.
Hey, thanks. Including Aaron Terrell is officially the Game Champion of Final Fantasy X. We all know the game, we love the game, but only Aaron can be the champion of it. And all these games that people are choosing, they're in the description for every piece of MinnMax content. And then also we run a big competition after a couple months, and whichever game wins the poll at the end of the competition, we make content about, including like Persona 5 Royal did. And then Anna was on that bonus episode with the winner. Great job on that, Anna. That was fun.
Thanks.
Hey, you're welcome.
That was fun.
It was fun.
I like me some Persona.
There it is. Also, Otsego 12. Ooh, I'm sorry, Sarah. You might want to cover your headphones for this. Otsego 12 is officially the champion of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, the one and only, the first to claim it. And I do feel like that's a contender for winning the next vote.
I hope so.
Who don't like that game? Logan Krause is officially the game champion of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords from our dear friends at Obsidian, talked about earlier in this episode. So congratulations, Logan Krause, champion of the Sith Lords. This is a theme now. Clement Zobel chose Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMO. So they're officially the champion of all of Star Wars The Old Republic. Seth, otherwise known as Mr. Pretty Good Gaming, Pretty Good Printing himself, they chose to champion Star Wars Galaxies. So the two Star Wars MMOs coincidentally just lining up here. So it's going to be a fierce competition for that. But congratulations for being the champion of Star Wars Galaxies, the old MMO. All right, that's it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much. Sorry it was a long one, but there's a lot to cover. Next week, we're going to be talking more about indie games and games we've been playing, all that stuff. Anna, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything you would like to plug?
This is my Twitter, at Pokachi.
There it is. Sweet. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Be good, have fun, let's go.